Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Movie Changeup NFL Draft Watch Along. We're gonna sit and figure out, who's gonna go first. I think everyone, is saying Trevor Lawrence is gonna go first, and then believe we know who the Jets are taking. And now rumors coming out today. Everyone's been saying that Mac Jones is gonna go to the 49ers, but there's been a big shift today, and apparently it's now going to be Trey Lance going to the 49ers. I don't know a lot, but apparently I do know that Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay, and everyone's favorite Jesus quarterback Tim Tebow had a workout for the Jags recently as a tight end. So we will
No, he
see.
requested for one.
Oh, he
They're
requested
not
him.
giving him one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
All right.
washed
Before
it
we
out.
lose our audience, let's.
But or I guess this is also we're having a normal episode tonight of the Movie Changeup podcast, where each week two people go head to head facing each other in movie reboots. There's 7 movies each week. There's also 7 rules, and you can't use a rule more than once. Some rules have included you must set one inside the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. You must combine yours with another franchise. Just a lot of weird and wacky rules. Kind of makes for some interesting movie pitches. But to help me judge these pitches this week, we have Bobby Mitchell. What are your thoughts? Who are the Lions taking? Are we trading back? What are we doing?
I'm kind of hoping for a trade back for actually talking about the draft, but I kind of hope they either go with Penny Sewell if he's there, or a surprise Justin Fields drop, and we either take him or let someone else trade up to get him. But other than that, I'm looking forward to the actual movie change-up episode that we're doing. I think we have a odd kind of list of movies, I think, this week that I'm ready to hear some better pitches for.
That's a fun way of saying it.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm excited for it. Sometimes that can get the best ones if you don't really care about the original.
All right, and Tristan, you're 1 and 2 right now. What are your thoughts? What did you do this week to prepare to beat Johnny, who has not lost in a long, long time?
Look, I'm hoping to take Johnny down. I'll just say that from the top here. I'm hoping to make this Johnny's first loss. I think he's been on a win streak. He's feeling pretty hot, but this is the time, you burn out eventually. You hit the high, you think you're so good. He's like the tortoise in the hare. He's the hare, but I'm the tortoise. I'm coming in, and I'm going to get him. He's up there all confident, but I'm coming to get him. Unfortunately, Bobby mentioned that there's some bad movies this week. 1 or 2 that I have a soft spot for in my heart, but the rest of them, I thought, what am I even going to do with these at all? So I'm curious to hear how Johnny goes with them, but I'm sure mine are better, so we'll see.
All right, and Johnny, what are your thoughts? What do you do? Anything to give you that extra push to keep you at 4-0, because you're currently 3-0?
I haven't lost since the first ever episode of this show. But honestly, I kind of feel maybe I'm feeling like Outworld going into this, and Tristan might represent Earthrealm, and I'm going in, undefeated, ready to just crush his soul, kill all his people. But he's got to take this one to stay alive, and sometimes that motivates people. I've never lost to Tristan, but I'm always confident. This is probably my least confident going in, but Tristan and I agree that these are just some weird movies to kind of work with. But I think it'll be a fun fight, and I'm always down for a fight, so I'm ready.
All right, and our 7 movies today that they will be fighting over. We have Jumper from 2008, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. from 2015, Masters of the Universe from 1987, Miami Vice from 2006, Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins from 1985,
An all-time classic.
Exactly, The Sorcerer's Apprentice from 2010, and A Wrinkle in Time from 2018. Bobby, if you'd like to read the rules.
Yep. So our rules for today, we have 1 must be a zombie movie, 1 must include a character made famous by Christian Bale, 1 must include a historical event. You must resurrect an actor's career for the lead role. 1 must be a 1990s movie. 1 must be cast with only Grammy Award winners, and 1 must only use past and present SNL cast members.
All right, so before we get started, there's a few things to bring up. Normally, when this show happens, the contestants are given, the movies and the rules, and they get to pair them themselves and figure out kind of what they think the best ruling is with which pairing. But we wanted to do something a little different. Originally, this kind of started as an April Fool's type thing for the beginning of this month, but this episode kept getting pushed back, so it doesn't really match up with that. But that's kind of what our initial plan was. So I matched up Johnny's rules for him. Bobby matched up Tristan's rules for him, so they didn't have complete control over their pitches, but they did get to figure out what they wanted to do within those rule pairings and matchups. And then also, since when Johnny and Tristan faced each other last, Johnny won 5-2. Normally, you win 4-3, clean victory. Everyone goes home, but since Johnny won 5-2, he won with that extra point. And so that meant that the next time they faced each other, which is tonight, Johnny gets a repeater rule, which means he could take out any rule he didn't like and replace it with another rule on the list, and could do whatever he wanted, while Tristan still had to go with the original rulings. So with that said, I believe, Johnny, you won the competition we had before the episode started. So where are we going first, and who's going first?
Well, we have a small problem because I had one of the rules written down wrong, so I got to make some changes on the fly here.
Is it the one you repeated, though?
That would be bad.
Well, no, but we're going to go with this. We're going to start with... I'm not really sold on what to start with, so we're going to go Wrinkle in Time, and I'm going to have Tristan go first.
Are you sure?
All
right. I
right.
got to do some work on this one.
All right. A Wrinkle in Time. This was Bobby's movie. So another thing, how this normally goes is one judge picks 3 movies, the other judge picks 3 movies, and then they come together to pick a 7th movie, and then you decide the winner of the movie you pick. So Bobby picked this movie, so he will decide the winner between Johnny and Tristan for this film. A Wrinkle in Time came out in 2018. It got a 42% on Rotten Tomatoes. The plot of the movie is Meg Murray and her little brother Charles Wallace have been without their scientist father, Mr. Murray, for 5 years, ever since he discovered a new planet and used the concept known as a tesseract to travel there. Joined by Meg's classmate Calvin O'Keefe and guided by 3 mysterious astral travelers known as Mrs. What's-It, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Witch, the children brave a dangerous journey to a planet that possesses all of the evil in the universe. And Tristan, what is your pitch?
I actually like these books a lot. I read them when I was a kid, but this movie in particular did a very bad job of capturing it. But I kind of threw out a lot of what the book did and tried to get like the themes and the ideas of what it explored and do kind of my own thing with it. And for mine, I thought what really sunk the original movie was that it was this huge, bloated, like big budget blockbuster type thing that didn't really like fit with what it was going for. And so I decided to make mine an animated movie. I think that's a little bit more accessible for what I'm going for here. And for my director, I picked someone who hasn't done animation yet, but he's working with Disney now, and I think he has a really great eye for detail and for physicality, which I think is something that animation directors would benefit from, and that's Barry Jenkins. In my cast, I have Ms. What's-It. She's the new neighbor that moves in next door. I have her played by Angela Bassett. Mrs. Who is someone that also lives with Miss What's-It, and I have her played by Viola Davis. The older sister, Meg, I have her played by Yara Shahabdi, I believe it is, from Blackish. Pretty good in that show. I think she's definitely the heart of the show in my mind. Her and the younger brother. Caleb McLaughlin is the older friend, Charlie. I have him as sort of like the genius kind of classmate character, the guy that was with them kind of on the adventure. And her little brother, I have him played by Miles Brown from Blackish. He's great on that show. He's definitely my favorite character on there. And I do have some historical figures that they go through. I'll go through the plot really quickly before I get to that, but I'll go through some more of my cast in a second. So essentially, Meg Wright is home from her freshman year of college, trying to reconnect with her family. They've never really been super close, but because they lost their father when they were very young, so they haven't been super close with her siblings and anything like that. But a new neighbor moves in that summer, so they decide, oh, let's go check out this new neighbor's house. Maybe it's a chance for me to connect with my brother. I haven't seen him in a while. So they go over, and they meet up with, like I said, Miss What's-It and Mrs. Who, Angela Bassett and Viola Davis as characters. And they're these sort of mystical beings who have this mysterious object in their house called the Tesseract that lets them travel through time and place along a family history. So the children decide to use, along with the help of What's It and Who, this tesseract to travel along their own family history to uncover the past, what happened to their father, what happened to their family in their past. So throughout this sort of travel through history, they meet some historical figures that people along their family lines interacted with. So I wanted to do some of the big people like Martin Luther King Jr., of course. I have him played by John David Washington. I also have Harriet Tubman played by Regina King. But I wanted to also highlight a couple Black people of history who have never really gotten the chance to shine too much. I have Marsha P. Brown, a very prominent LGBTQ Black figure in history, played by Laverne Cox. And I have Dr. Rebecca Crumpler, who is famous for being the first Black doctor, and she faced a lot of persecution, but I think that's someone that could be looked up to, especially by these characters, and that's played by Kerry Washington. So essentially their journey in this movie is to use the Tesseract, and along with these two figures, kind of go back through their family's past and fix the wrinkles in their timeline. There's been some upset, so they're going through and they're making sure everything kind of lines up and kind of fits. And through this, they find out that their mom, who is kind of distant from them, they have the young mother, and this is played by Zendaya, and the young father is played by Daniel Kaluuya. And they kind of interact with the young version of their parents, where they see like, oh, when they're youth, they were kind of these rebels who were standing up against suppression, standing up for what's right. And their father ultimately gets killed in a protest towards the end. So they learn a lesson through that of like the cost of doing this, and they also learn to connect with their mother a bit more because she's been distant through the death of their father, through their lives. And you sort of get this family drama of them coming together as siblings and friends and learning about not just the past of their family, but the past of their people. And I think you put this as a nice animated movie right to Disney Plus, something that I think people would all get together and watch. That is kind of going for a good family adventure that has a lot of heart and a lot of history to it. And that's my pitch for Wrinkle in Time.
All right, I like it. Interesting. Johnny, what did you have for your Wrinkle in Time pitch that you wrote a long, long time ago and definitely weren't working on right now?
I think he's working on a different pitch.
I was working on a different one. I started with one I didn't need to fuck with. But okay, I'll go with this. I think Wrinkle in Time is the stupidest fucking book ever written. I think having a Miss What's It, Miss Who Cares, and a Miss Fuck You. Those are all the dumbest names in history, and those are all like, I don't give a shit. Like, you might as well call it Miss Who Gives a Fuck. So I got rid of all that bullshit, and I kind of just fucked with some elements. The rule choice that I had to go with on this was make it a 1990s movie, and I think that kind of helps make this a little different because it makes... I tried to go very 90s with it and make it a movie that made sense at the times. You have examples of, you know, movies that maybe changed a lot of their source material and not tried to stay so fan service with it. So I took some elements and I changed some other things. So I'll go with this. My director is Wolfgang Peterson, who did The Neverending Story. I will say this, my movie came out in 1996. My Meg is played by a young Raven Simone, most famous then for being on The Cosby Show, and later will be in That's So Raven, but she was popular around that time. My Alexander, who is the father, is played by John Witherspoon, who's been in a million things, probably most famous for being the funny uncle or father in Friday. My Calvin is going to be played by Kenan Thompson, who's coming off a couple movies, but mainly D2, The Mighty Ducks, where he was the king of the knuckle puck. My Mrs. Wallace, which is Calvin's mother, is going to be played by Whoopi Goldberg. And I have a role, the Master of Time, and that is going to be played by the GOAT, David Bowie. So here is my movie. A man named Alexander is experimenting with the device he refers to as the Tesseract in a lab, and is on the phone with his young daughter, asking her if what she wants to do for dinner that night. He apologizes for working late, but says he will bring home her favorite pizza. As he's wrapping up, the Tesseract starts to glow. Alexander goes to inspect the now glowing green Tesseract when there is a flash of light and he has vanished. Meanwhile, Meg sits at home waiting for her father to return. She tries calling his office, but no one answers. Getting worried, she calls the police. They tell her that her father's not been missing for long enough to file a missing persons report, but they put out an APB and are searching for him nonetheless. The cop asks her if she needs a place to stay if her father does not return home, but Meg says she can stay the night at the neighbor's house. The neighbor, Mrs. Wallace, has a son in the same class as Meg named Calvin. Calvin comforts Meg while Mrs. Wallace goes to sleep. Mrs. Wallace has a dream of Meg's father visiting her and asking her for her help, and wakes up in a panic. She rushes to find Calvin and Meg to wake them. She tells them this might sound crazy, but she must reveal to them the secret of Meg's father's work. She explains that he is working on an unknown device he believed to be the link to another world, and while at first she believed him to be crazy, he was able to prove it to her. She says there's another device her father left for her in the basement, or in case anything were to happen to him. She reveals a time-traveling device she has in her basement and says the only way to rescue Alexander is to find what time period he is trapped. They go on an adventure through different time periods, seeing dinosaurs and pirates and all sorts of fun kids movie type of stuff that would have been big in the 90s, especially for what would pretty much be a Disney movie. But this draws the notice of the Master of Time, who is chasing them down throughout the film after this. So basically, in the end, it is revealed the Master of Time is trying to stop them because time travel is creating alternate realities that could potentially end all civilization as we know it. The last scene of the movie is an interaction with Alexander and Meg having finally reunited, and Alexander having to come to terms with being lost in time in order to preserve the life of his daughter as he knows it. They return to modern times without him and Mrs. Wallace adopting Meg. Before the credits, Meg has a dream of her father reaching out to her and calling for help. She sits up in bed and the film cuts to black. So my movie is it's a family movie in the 90s. It's very 90s. I wanted to stick to that. I dropped some elements of the book while keeping the actual interesting aspects, but I changed some characters around, and I think it's a fun twist for a movie like that where you think this evil, like David Bowie character is chasing them, and in the end, he's just trying to save them. And I think that's a good little twist at the end. So that is my Wrinkle in Time.
All right. I know, Bobby, you're in charge of this round, but I don't really have any questions for either of them. I think I know kind of what they're each going for,
Yep.
So
I'm in a similar boat. I guess just Tristan. The only kind of minor question is like how much humor is going to be in yours for the animated movie, basically.
I want a little bit of humor just to lighten it up, but it's not a comedy. Like there's some comic relief in there, but it's just typical like a family tone. It's not like a super comedic. It's a little bit more serious, but has comedic relief.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted a better picture of what kind of the tone of your movie was. I kind of get both of them, so I'm ready to see them fight.
Yeah, it's 19 minutes now, so at 24 minutes, I'll stop it.
I'll say what I like about mine a lot is that it focuses in on the family and they're going through like their own history and their own past and what's built to who they are. And I think that Johnny's feels like they're going all over the place. They're seeing dinosaurs, they're seeing this and that, but it doesn't feel connected to the characters. It doesn't feel like there's really like any through line for them as characters there. And I think mine feels much more focused. You can see them growing over the course of it. You can see them learning about themselves, about their experience. And I just think that's a much better family film, something that has a lesson in it and a moral in it that's a lot more interesting than Johnny's. It's just like, oh, don't travel through time, I guess.
Mine is about accepting loss and sometimes realizing that there's a kind of, I went with something that seems like 90s kids movies. Maybe there's a higher power in all of this and you can't always control the things you lost. Mine's going to deal more with loss and an issue that I think was something that is common in 90s kids movies and something that we see popular still today with movies like, Soul and Inside Out and Coco and things like that. You look at all Pixar's, I think you thematically stick to something that fits more. I don't need Barry Jenkins basically making the same mistake that Ava DuVernay made and make a Wrinkle in Time movie. And I think your movie makes the mistake of combining shit that's just always going to be stupid no matter what you do with it. Like, I think the Wrinkle in Time movie that came out, as close to, you did as good of a job as you could have done with the source material, but the source material does not translate to screen very well. So I don't want to see a movie with Harriet Tubman and MLK and all these important people in history, and then you have this is a Miss What's-It and Miss Who's-It and Miss Fuck-It. Like, I don't need that, and I feel like it's just a jumble of a bunch of bullshit, and yours, like, okay, maybe if it's like a TV special, like the My Friend Martin movie, okay, you could do like a little TV special that's a 45 minutes and you show in class and it's people traveling through time and seeing these important people. But yours to be an actual like theatrical film doesn't make sense to me, and it just feels like a bunch of jumble bullshit. Like I don't need to see anything that you're pitching in your movie.
I'm not sure what I mean, you're saying like, oh, your premise is all confusing and Mrs. What's it and Miss Hughes, Miss this and that. And I took the basic premise of the book, like, oh, there's these time traveling people that live next door. And that's all I really took from the book. Like
Which is the dumbest part of the book. The only interesting part of the book is the dad gets lost in time, and then it's about a daughter trying to reconnect with her father. That's what I focused on, because that's, I think, a movie that you can actually make interesting. You were like, yeah, well, we're going to have these witches that live next door and they have these powers, and then they're going to go visit fucking MLK. Like, no, like that's so stupid. Like, and it's a movie that I feel like maybe it's made with the right intentions, but it comes across as something that would just get shit on social media for the end of time. Like it would just be ridiculed to death after a movie came out. Mine is a fun kids movie from the 90s that people will grow up with and they'll enjoy. And I have, characters that are fun. It deals with things that kids movies deal with, and it doesn't try to shoehorn in narratives and stuff that you don't really need in a Wrinkle in Time movie.
I mean, I think mine's a perfectly straightforward narrative. And you talk about a daughter connecting with her father, and that's exactly what mine's about. It's about their father died and never really known like the true history of that. And it's affected them throughout their lives. Even the fact that they never really knew their father, they're still affected by that person in their life. And this whole travel history is them trying to correct the wrinkles in time and see if they can kind of bring their father back. That's the premise, is like they're trying to correct these wrinkles and see if they can save their father. But ultimately at the end, it's like a decision where they realize history has to play out how it's supposed to play out. And I think that's
here's my question, and this is why I wanted to stray away from anything like this with time travel stuff. So your movie, they have the power to time travel, and let's say they want to prevent the assassination of Martin Luther King, because that has something to do with her father for some reason. Let's say they prevent it and they go in the future and realize, oh, well, my father was never born because of this. We have to go back and make sure MLK dies. Like that was more important that he died. Like that is the issue with involving such important, like such sad events in this. Like I don't want to see a movie that goes back and it's like, yeah, now MLK is alive, but all this terrible things still happen. Like
I didn't say any of that. You're just making up stuff right now. I didn't say any of that happened to mine.
That would
stuff
happen
that you pulled out of your ass that I didn't say in my pitch.
But that stuff, like if you're going back in the time and you have the power to time travel, why wouldn't they try to prevent something so tragic that they know happened? So you're either going to not include it, and then everyone will be like, well, what the fuck? Like that's stupid. That like if you have the power to travel through time, just prevent these horrible things from happening, or the real studio would be like, okay, what if we made a movie where they went back and like tried to fix these
I have some final points if Johnny wants to start making this up about my pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at 24 minutes, so I want to hear what you have to say.
The reason they're going to all these historical figures isn't just random. It's because they're going down their own family line. Like they're going to realize, oh, my parents were in this movement, and my grandparents, they were in the MLK movement, and my great-grandparents, they were in this movement. And they're not like going, oh, here we're going back to like the day Martin Luther King dies. They're going back and following like their great-grandfather around, trying to make sure he gets where he's supposed to get to, and then, oh, look, he's interacting with MLK on this day. And then they get these like happenstance encounters with a couple of people throughout their family history. And that it's not about the historical figures, really. It's about their family.
Maybe give him a heads up on something that happens in his future, if you have that ability to do so. It seems kind of
I mean, that's in literally every single time travel premise ever. Like I explained it already. I said they eventually learn that you can't change history. History is going to play out how it's supposed to play out. So they can't go and change stuff and mess with stuff.
All right, I have where I'm going. Bobby, if you do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm making the final call, so I want to hear what you're thinking first, but I think I know where I'm going.
All right. As far as like the time travel and like warning MLK, like I get where Johnny's going, but that didn't really factor into my thing. My thing was before Tristan even brought it up, his thing reminded me of basically like My Friend Martin, and it felt like very after school especially to me, and I didn't really hear anything outside of like why it wouldn't be beyond just like Barry Jenkins is making it. Especially, I think being an animated movie almost hurt it to me because I feel like that makes it feel even more like after school, especially. Where Johnny's to me just feels like a fun 90s fantasy adventure movie. I think I like his director. And yeah. and that's kind of where I'm going. I'm leaning towards Johnny with this.
Yeah, in the same boat. I don't think that Johnny's argument about the time travel, that didn't affect me at all. But like at first, I think an animated Wrinkle in Time movie was a really smart call. But the problem is, I don't think an animated version of the movie you pitched is quite as
I wish you
powerful.
guys would bring these up
But
before we argue. Like you said, you
well,
had no
no,
questions, and then you guys already had your
until
minds made up before
no,
we
I
even
didn't. It
argued.
wasn't that wasn't until that was like during the argument. I kind of thought about it, and as we
Yeah.
went, as you guys talked, that wasn't as you pitched the movie. More as I heard about both your movies, and that's kind of what I was thinking. But Johnny just sounded more of a fun movie that stripped away maybe some of the stuff that couldn't quite get put to screen, as well. So I think that's where I'm leaning. It wasn't like a complete blowout for me. I did like Tristan's pitch a lot, but going with Johnny for this one.
Yeah, and Spinner58 says Tristan sounds like Forrest Gump with time travel, which it kind of also is the vibe I got.
An Academy Award-winning movie already.
All right, well.
What movie?
Forrest Gump won an Academy Award. Why is that a negative comparison?
So did Suicide Squad, but I don't know.
Yeah, so Suicide Squad. You can't go by that. So's No Man Land.
All right, Tristan.
All right, let's go with Miami Vice, and Johnny can go first on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. On that fight, I was so busy changing my pitches, I didn't listen to what Tristan had to say on his. So I'm glad I won that. But I went to the time travel thing, thinking that's what he said. So thank you guys. All right.
Miami Vice. So this is actually the one that Bobby and I did together. So we're co-judging this one. Miami Vice got a 46% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if I've ever actually seen the movie, so I don't know if that's fair or not. The plot is a case involving drug lords and murder in South Florida takes a personal turn for undercover detectives Sonny Crockett and Ricardo Tubbs. Unorthodox Crockett gets involved romantically with a Chinese-Cuban wife of a trafficker of arms and drugs, while Tubbs deals with an assault of those he loves. And
I just had to cough for a second. I don't like coughing on screen nowadays. All right, so Miami Vice. If you've ever seen it, you know that I think Michael Mann directed it, and the dude's basically deaf, and he did the sound editing, and that plays through pretty well. I'm starting to think Christopher Nolan is also deaf. But I'm going, the rule that Joe paired for my movie was one must be cast with only Grammy Award winners, which thank you guys for that one. That might be the worst rule we've ever come up with for this
torturous
show.
Rule.
But it was one that I wanted to take on the challenge, so I felt like it would be a cheat to do my repeated rule and get rid of this one. So I stuck with it. I put in the research. So I will read off my people. I wanted to go across the board, all people that have won Grammys, even my director. So my director is Martin Scorsese. I had originally deleted that, and I had what he won a Grammy for, but I think it was for producing the band documentary or whatever, but he won a Grammy. But not that even matters because it's a cast, but I wanted to stick with it. But I think he fits the vibe of what I'm going for here. My detective, Ricardo Tubbs, is going to be played by Donald Glover. He won for the song Redbone. My detective, James Crockett, is going to be played by Don Cheadle. He won for producing the album for the Miles Davis biopic. My villain is a drug lord named Donovan James. That's going to be played by Joaquin Phoenix. He won for the Walk the Line songs and soundtrack. My Evan is a character in my movie that's going to be played by Justin Timberlake, who's won a few, but for Sexy Back and a few other things. He's won for videos and songs and dancing awards and shit like that. And then James's wife, I don't really have much in the pitch for her because I wanted to keep it shorter, but basically Don Cheadle's wife's going to be played by Mary J. Blige, who is a Grammy Award winner as well and a great actress. So my movie is Detective Ricardo Tubbs and James Crockett are on the trail of Miami drug lord Donovan James. They storm a drug deal and get in a shootout with James's men. During the shootout, Tubbs notices a man helping the drug lord and tells Crockett they need to stand down and get out of there. Crockett's confused, but they let the drug dealers escape. Afterwards, the two detectives have a heated confrontation. Tubbs explains there was a man helping James that he that he used to work, that he is not what he seems to be. A man named Evan. This is Justin Timberlake's character. Tubbs believes to be an undercover agent because they used to work together in their previous precinct. Crockett explains that holding fire and letting the dealers escape was the wrong move because not only did it affect their operation, but it also could blow the cover of the undercover agent if that is the case. So the movie basically plays out as Crockett doubting the motivations of Tubbs, Evan being the right-hand man of the drug dealer James, and Tubbs starting to doubt himself after their interactions and things that his instincts are correct. So eventually in a scene where Tubbs manages to isolate himself with Evan, it is revealed through dialogue that the two were former lovers, and Tubbs no longer believes that he is an undercover agent, and he plans to stop them both. But another twist throughout the film, you have these interactions and you have a big shootout in the end, but in the end of the film, it ends up with James capturing the two detectives, but it turns out Evan was an undercover agent the whole time, and James is arrested by the FBI that's storming at the end. So I didn't type out a ton on here, so I can explain more if you guys have questions on what happens, but I thought it was kind of self-explanatory. I'm kind of mixing like a cop drama with like kind of twist in terms of like The Departed and having undercover agents and stuff. So I thought Scorsese would be a good person to kind of do that. We've pitched movies with him before. I think Scorsese, I'd love him to get back to kind of that tone that The Departed was, because he's stuck to like The Silence and The Irishman and stuff. But I'd love like a good 2 hour, 15-minute cop drama with undercover agents and twists and character motivations that you're not quite sure of, with Martin Scorsese directing it. So that's what I pitched here.
Okay, Tristan.
All right, my pitch for Miami Vice. I'll go with my rule in a second. I'll just start off with my premise and say that a 1985 team of Vice detectives has to investigate an underground Miami gambling ring. My cast here is Michael B. Jordan and Ethan Hawke. So Michael B. Jordan is kind of our main character and our sort of through line through this story. He's playing the Tubbs role, and he's sort of this newcomer to the Miami Vice squad. He's a transfer from Chicago. He's kind of new to the cop life, so he's getting into the lifestyle for the first time. Versus Ethan Hawke, who's sort of this chill, vibing, like beach kind of guy. He's got like the slight suntan going. He wears shades all the time. He's kind of just like that really chill Miami type cop. You would expect this role to be sort of that, like, oh, I've been on this job for 30 years, kid, and it doesn't get any better. But he's kind of just like, he enjoys it. He's kind of just chilling and vibing with the Florida lifestyle of being a cop here. But both of their routines are disrupted when they uncover a massive money laundering scheme going through underground casinos, run in part, at least, by Irving Rosenfeld, Christian Bale's character from American Hustle. I had to bring in a Christian Bale character as my rule. So the character I use is his character from American Hustle, who I assume was a real person, but when I looked it up, he's a fictionalized version of a couple people, so I felt all right by changing his past up a bit. And this takes place in 1985, so it'd be like a little bit earlier than the American Hustle stuff, kind of like around that time of it, I believe. So it'd be sort of like one of those past schemes he was involved in throughout that time of American Hustle. And he sort of does work like similarly to he did with American Hustle. He's sort of like a con man. He's playing like both sides of this kind of game. And he's working alongside with Ethan Hawke a bit, trying to sort of be the cops kind of spy on the inside sometimes. He's also working against the cops, trying to make money for himself and his business. So he's kind of this supporting character who's like this criminal kind of guy that's running the underworld and trying to out for his own gain. And Michael B. Jordan is working undercover, and he's kind of starting to lose his identity a bit. He's starting to get his real world and his relationship with his new wife at that point. And he's been working so much. He's been in this undercover kind of personality for so long that he's kind of losing connection with his family, not seeing him as much. So he's struggling in his personal life. And they all come together on this big kind of case. And we see Ethan Hawke's this kind of slacker cop, but he knows what he's doing. He really gets the job done. He knows how to talk to these criminals and have them get along with them and tell them stuff they otherwise wouldn't tell them. So we get this big sting operation on these guys, and It plays out like you would expect any really good heist movie to play out. I have it directed by Steven Soderbergh. He's the heist master. I want to see him get back to a genre that he's really done a lot of great work in. He hasn't been in a heist movie in a while, and he hasn't directed a heist movie in a while, so it'd be fun to see him get back to that. I think he'd give it really a sleek kind of shine to it that you'd see it at Miami, out of Miami Vice. The original had a very sleek digital look to it, and I think Soderbergh can bring a nice sleekness to it as well. So you have that through line, and I also have a little bit of a through line of Don Johnson having a cameo as the police captain. That would be fun, as he played the cop on the TV show. So I have that. It's just basically a crime thriller taking down this underground gambling ring. And of course, like always, Irving Rosenfeld comes out on top for himself in the end. He gets out and he flees, and we kind of get this cute little setup where he's heading out to maybe go into the events of American Hustle. And that's my pitch for Miami Vice.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, you guys got questions for us?
Oh, yeah. If you don't have a question, Bobby, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it. I'm still kind of. I don't think I do, but I'll see if I can come up with something.
All right. My question doesn't really have anything direct to do with your pitches, but in the television show and a little bit in the movie that the TV show is based on, the two main characters had the iconic look of like a blazer over a t-shirt, which basically became a trend at that point. But that look's kind of been taken over somewhat by nerds at this point, so it's not as cool of a look. So I want to know, like, what are your main characters? Like, do they have like an iconic look for their movie to set a new trend? Are they just going to wear kind of average street clothes?
I mean, mine would be more average street clothes for the heroes, but I would give Joaquin Phoenix as the drug dealer more of like the kind of nerdy, like he would be the homage to the original outfit, wearing the blazer over t-shirt type of look and having kind of crazy pants and like, I hate Don Cherry, but like the Don Cherry type of like blazers and stuff. Yeah. I think that would be a fun homage to the original. If you know a lot about the original show or know some about the episodes, I have some homages to there, but I kind of flip things on their heads. So I wanted to do that too with like, yeah, Joaquin Phoenix can have like the style that the detectives in the original had.
Yeah, in mine, I would have Michael B. Jordan be a bit obviously more chill. He's just sort of like a plain white undershirt, black jeans kind of guy. And my Ethan Hawke, I have him as like that beachy kind of guy. So he'd be all about like his beach shirts and his dad shirts and things like that. But I would have a fun moment where they go into like a meeting with John Johnson as their boss. And Ethan Hawke has to get dressed up nice for this one. So he puts a blazer on over his Hawaiian shirt, and that's his dress up where he wants to look nice. It's a nice throwback to what Johnny or what Joe mentioned, but you don't want to. I think it fits better for the character for him to be walking around in like Hawaiian dad shirts and things like that for Ethan Hawke's character.
All right, I like both of those answers. So we're at 39 minutes right now, so you have until 44, and I'll stop you. I'll give a warning this time, so you can find it out.
So Tristan started last time. I'll start on this. I mean, I think his Wrinkle in Time pitch, like when I fought against that, I legitimately didn't like that idea, but I think his movie sounds fine. Like I'd go see it. Steven Soderbergh can make a decent movie. The problem I have with it is I don't necessarily see the Steven Soderbergh type of heist movie really fitting in with the rest of Tristan's story, because it's not like even kind of like an American Hustle type of movie of, you know, you have this, but you know the plan throughout, and then you have some reveals. But like the Steven Soderbergh, like Logan Lucky was the best movie he's made in a long time, maybe since the first Ocean's movie, and it still sticks so strongly to that formula that if I'm watching a Steven Soderbergh heist movie, I want it to stick to that formula of you think everything's going wrong, and then at the end it has this flash cut of all of these scenes of them doing these things. But I don't necessarily think that fits with a Miami Vice movie, and I don't necessarily think that fits with the rest of your plot. So that'd be my main hit against just like the director choice. And then I think if you went away from his formula, I don't think he's shown the strength as a director to make an interesting movie outside of that formula. So I just don't think the typical Soderbergh formula kind of meshes well with the rest of your pitch.
I want to say that I didn't go too much into like their actual plan of taking down the casino, because I was already getting a bit long-winded on the beginning part. But it does have those Soderbergh kind of heist elements where they're trying to make sure they get it at the exact right time. They want to make sure that everybody's in the room at the same time. And Michael B. Jordan is in there undercover trying to plant hints to make sure like, oh, figure out who's the leaders, figure out who's in charge so that they can all be like in this casino at the time we sting it. And then they have to kind of socially manipulate people to make sure like, oh, they don't leave. And you have this scary moment where like everyone's kind of, you think, oh, the bad guys are all about to leave before the cops can get here. And they have to sort of outsmart them at the last second. And then you see that was kind of part of it all along. You had that kind of big, that sort of big heist kind of feel to the final act of the movie. I didn't get too much into that, but yeah, you have that where they're trying to take down this big main casino, and they spent the whole movie building up to making sure everybody's in the same room at the same time, making sure everybody's culpable, and that's my sort of Soderbergh heist element to that movie, or to my movie.
Okay, I think too with mine, again, like yours sounds like a movie I'd throw on, and stream and play video games while I watch it, but mine I think has the elements that I'd be looking for if I wanted to make like a legitimately cool like Miami Vice movie, because I already sold the Scorsese stuff, but the other thing, the part of that show that kind of gets forgotten and something that wasn't an element in the Michael Mann version was in the original show. The reason I went with the Evan characters because the most iconic episode of that show was an episode called Evan, and it is revealed that an undercover agent was a former lover of Crockett, who I kind of flipped that on its head by having the young detective, the young up-and-comer, be the guy that is morally like, obligated by that and feels like he needs to kind of protect this guy. And then the older detective kind of showing him the ropes and being like, look, you cannot let these things affect your detective work. So I want that element in it, and I don't necessarily see that from yours. There's a lot of, the Miami Vice was an older show, and in that show you have Tubbs saying shit to Crockett like, if you were never gay, none of this would have happened, and things like that don't hold up. So I wanted to bring in some elements, but modernize it and give those characters some interactions that would work. I think Donald Glover and Don Cheadle would be good. Justin Timberlake, I think, has turned into a good actor too. If anyone has seen the movie Palmer, that's the best performance he's ever put in his career, and that came out last year. I think he's shown his acting force, and I'm always down. Joaquin Phoenix working with Martin Scorsese as a villain, I think, would just be something I can't really miss. And I would want him to be kind of the eccentric drug dealer working in a Scorsese movie and put in like that Jack Nicholson, The Departed performance that is something super memorable.
Yeah, I will say that
2 minutes.
I want to say that I like my cast a lot more than yours. Sure, you have Joaquin Phoenix, but I have Michael B. Jordan. I have Ethan Hawke. I think those are two of my favorite actors working today.
I don't think Ethan Hawke. I mean, I would say our
Christian
cast,
Bale.
I would honestly say they're about the same. Christian Bale. First of all, okay, getting into that.
Michael B. Jordan is the same as
Michael
your
B.
cast?
Jordan and Donald Glover, I think, are comparable to me. And Donald Glover just hasn't gotten the chance to be that leading man, but he's the best part in The Martian, and anything he really appears in. Don Cheadle is better than Ethan Hawke. He's done way more interesting stuff than he's ever done.
I don't think that's true. Ethan Hawke is one of the best actors working right now. Don Cheadle is like a bit character actor.
And then, Joaquin Phoenix is better than anyone in your movie. If you've seen American Hustle, your movie does not make sense to be a prequel to American Hustle because it completely changes the character of, I know he's a made-up character, but he's kind of this lowly guy in the beginning of American Hustle, and then like has dreams of being bigger. In your movie, he's already kind of established, and it doesn't make sense. Like if you watched your movie and then watched American Hustle, you'd be like, what the fuck is the
I disagree with you on that too. I think he's small time here. He's running this one underground casino. He's not running like the entire Miami Beach. He's not running all of Florida. He's running this like one money laundering big casino that's growing a bit bigger and bigger than his britches, and then he collapses here. And you see him when he gets to American Hustle, he's down on his nothing because he lost everything he had in Miami.
I guess, but I mean, I think it's a stretch. I think if you had him in there and he had a side part and he was like consulting with the guy who actually ran the casino, I think maybe that works. But I just don't see, as someone who loves American Hustle.
And I also wrote in here too that he's not running the casino. He's just one of the parts of the people who is like among the cogs running the casino. He's not the big main head guy. He's trying to get there, and that's part of his game throughout the story.
All right, time's up unless Bobby needs more time because I think I know where.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I think we were on a similar page.
Yeah. All right.
So I'll say mine first. I think this was a close one to me. And I think that both movies sound good. But it just kind of comes down to me which movie stood out as far as the plot and as far as the actors involved. And to me, that was Tristan's. I think I really liked his leads. I liked the dynamic that he kind of laid out between the characters. I didn't quite Like I knew that I knew what Johnny was going for, but I could really picture Tristan's, and I think that's important for Miami Vice for the two lead characters. And I really like Christian Bale's character as the villain. So even though it's close, it's just kind of the characters that are standing out. Even though I think Johnny has a slight edge in director choice on it, I think that heist element would make it a fun movie. So that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way, especially with the heist element, and I think like no one's gonna argue that like Scorsese or that Soderbergh is a better director than Scorsese, but I feel like for what they were pitching, I feel like I like Soderbergh as like this fun heist movie, cop movie, buddy cop movie combination for a director, where I feel like Johnny's is just like another kind of Scorsese cop drama, which
we've gotten like one of.
Yeah, but it's like Departed for me. Departed for me is still not one I like regularly go back to. As far as Scorsese movies, it's not like the one I'm super hyped about. Where I love Ocean's 11.
You're a big side effects fan.
Yeah, I love side effects.
Big Soderbergh, yeah, like movies where he
the 2021 Oscars.
Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good twist in the 2021 Oscars. I'm waiting for the reveal.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I think my movie sounds better, but I missed some of Tristan's plot because I fucked myself going into this, and I'm not gonna, make excuses. But I fucked up because I just had the wrong rule choice, and I missed how the fuck detectives and a heist movie made any sense together. But I didn't attack that because I don't know what the fuck the plot was. So
yeah, it made sense. I think it sounded like a fun movie to me. So
is this the rule for you, Johnny?
Were the detectives planning the heist?
They end up getting involved into the heist. Well, it's less of a yeah. They're in the heist sort of, but it's like they're planning like a sting as a heist sort of in a way.
Still stupid, but okay, cool.
Is this the rule for you that you messed up the rule on?
No,
he's getting there. I can tell he's still working on another one.
I think I'm good now, but I'm gonna tell you what I fucked up on. I just had it down as our normal resurrect an actor's career, but I didn't see that it had to be the lead role. So I had to change two pitches completely because I had not necessarily the lead role was the resurrect a career. So I had to change things super on the fly. And I think I've come to the point where it's worked out. But as soon as Bobby read that, I was like, oh, fuck. And I had to go make some changes because one of my favorite pitches, I had that role and I couldn't lose because I messed up the role choice. So that's why. All right, we're gonna go to.
Don't forget to update the scoreboard either.
Yep.
We're gonna go to one that's like a shorter pitch for mine, I think, and we're gonna go to the fucking movie. Just thank you guys so much for this one, The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
All right,
man.
That is my pick, so I will be judging this round.
Thanks, fucking asshole.
All right.
I think you're gonna really enjoy Joe's picks of movies.
Yeah, I picked some great ones. Okay. All right, so we have The Sorcerer's Apprentice. It came out in 2010. Got a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is 60% too. So Dave Stuttler, played
Something
by
like that.
Jay Baruchel, is just an average guy, but the wizard Balthazar, Blake, played by Nicolas Cage, sees in him a hidden talent for sorcery. He becomes Balthazar's reluctant protege, getting a crash course in the art of magic. As Dave prepares to help his mentor defend Manhattan from a powerful adversary, played by Alfred Molina, he wonders if he can survive the training, save the city, and find his true love. That's what Rotten Tomatoes says, anyways.
All right, and I think Johnny said in the chat that Tristan's going to go first because he's stepping away for a second.
Yeah, he mentioned that he had a short pitch for this one, and I also have a short pitch for this one. So hopefully he has a very quick bathroom break, because my rule for Sorcerer's Apprentice was that I must use only past and present SNL cast members. And I think
interesting.
I think that the easy way to use that for sure, especially with this movie, this is not a good one, and like Johnny said, it was a hard one to do. So my direction for this was that I made it sort of essentially like a Pop Star Never Stopping parody of big scale kind of fantasy blockbusters, and the ones like this that try to launch a franchise and have a bunch of lore and a bunch of setup for all this deep stuff, and then it never goes anywhere. And I'll have my cast right here. I have Andy Samberg as Dave. He plays sort of like a washed-up man-child who'd rather show up to work drunk and fight with customers, and he's just kind of like this typical Andy Samberg kind of like doofus guy who's never done much with his life, but he wanders out into the woods on a drunken night one night with his friends, and where he happens to find a cave with a magical sword, and he pulls the sword out of the stone, and a sorcerer's apprentice comes down and tells him, "You've been chosen to be the savior of mankind. You're the magical guardian of the earth and all this stuff," and says, "Oh, you're going to protect the realms from the seven deadly wizards and all this lore stuff." And the guy who the guy who appears there is Bill Hader as like a Yen-Sid type ancient wizard guy. He's in like a wizard beard, a wizard robe. He's playing this kind of like ancient wisdom kind of guy. He's trying to explain to Andy Samberg all of these rules and all this lore and all this backstory. But Andy Samberg, of course, has been drunk the whole night. So he's like in and out of consciousness. He's asking him all these dumb questions, and he's just kind of not really there. And Bill Hader's getting more and more and more annoyed because he's taking himself very seriously. You know, he's the Yen-Sid wizard. This is some serious shit. And you can tell by the end of the scene, he's just getting more and more annoyed with Andy Samberg. So they have that relationship throughout this movie of like these peckering two people who are on this adventure together. And Andy Samberg is there just by happenstance, and Bill Hader's there because he's like cosmically bound to this sword, and he has to be the protector of the guardian of the sword. But when he draws that sword, he also draws the power of evil. So evil awakens, and we have the bad sorcerer, the leader of the kind of dark magic on this movie, is played by Jorma Taccone, and he also directs the movie. And the two kind of witches that are like his sidekicks, the witches that are going out and kind of fighting him, are Kristen Wiig and Adie Bryant, both really funny SNL cast members. I think they'd have some great interactions with each other as these two witches. And we do have a flashback when Bill Hader kind of explains the origin story of this, and we flash back to King Arthur times. And for my King Arthur, I have a cameo role from Adam Sandler because I feel like it would be fun to make him like the king of old England or whatever, and it's Adam Sandler. And he passes down the sword essentially 3 generations to Andy Samberg's Dave, and they go on this adventure where they have to fight against these witches, and they hit all the typical like fantasy movie tropes. And then Bill Hader starts explaining what's happening, and of course Andy Samberg doesn't listen, doesn't follow the rules, and does it his own way, and still somehow gets out and wins. You know, he says, "Oh, you must fight the dragon of the 7 kings," and then there's this big 7-headed dragon, and Andy Samberg just kind of like walks behind him or something, you know, stuff like that, where you play up these big fantasy moments and then they get subverted. And I think that would be kind of fun. You make it this really fun SNL filled cast that's just taking these failed franchises like you talked about today and last week and the next 2 weeks essentially even, and turning them on their head and making a fun parody of those failed movies. And that's my pitch for Sorcerer's Apprentice.
All right.
And who was your director on that one?
Oh, my director was Jorma Taccone. He co-directed the Pop, So I Never Stop Popping.
Okay. Yep.
All right. I think that's the longest pitch I've ever heard after someone said I have a short pitch. So
I started going,
improving. Yeah.
But I did enjoy it. All right, Johnny,
Me
what
too.
do you got? What do you got for?
So Tristan and I happen to match up on the same rule of this. We must use past and present SNL cast members. We went a similar direction, but a little different. Mine's not so much a parody as far as just kind of a straight up like a comedy. And I think mine just works a little better, and we'll get into that. But my directors are John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, who did one of the best comedies the last 10 years, Game Night. My Balthazar is played by Will Forte. Just a fucking legend. I love Will Forte. My Dave is my lead that's going to be played by Pete Davidson, who the King of Staten Island was shorted at the Oscars. I think that movie was fantastic. My Becky is going to be played by Melissa Villasenor. I don't necessarily know how to say her name, but she is one of the only actresses I really like on SNL right now. And my Horvath, the evil sorcerer, is going to be played by Kyle Mooney, who is another guy who's really funny on SNL, is not necessarily on screen much, but he has the look. If you just look him up, if you are not familiar with Kyle Mooney, he looks like a fucking sorcerer. Like that dude, he's got the long hair, he's got the nerdy look. Like I could totally see him in this role. And if you know some of his characters on SNL, he could pull this off pretty well. So this is my pitch. Dave and his girlfriend Becky are kind of low life stoners, and one night they get high and decide to break into a museum. They find an old tablet in a very protective security wing that is connected to old sorcery, so it says. Joking around, Dave sneaks in and reads the tablet. This sends both him and Becky to another dimension full of sorcerers. Dave and Becky both think they must have gotten laced with something at first, but the stakes raise as the film goes on. Dave is taken under the wing of the obscure Balthazar, played again by the legendary Will Forte, who's kind of this over-the-top sorcerer who believes that Dave shows things that he is not necessarily aware of and has motivations that he doesn't see in himself, and can become a great sorcerer and a great leader. And this all happens while the young couple finds themselves in a war between Balthazar and the evil sorcerer Horvath, who is trying to murder them all and make sure they can't return to the modern timeline. So that's essentially mine. The moral of it is basically these two stoners that don't have much going on, that don't believe in themselves really, go into this alternate dimension and realize they have something in themselves. And it's a kind of by the numbers, like plot wise for a comedy, but I think if you look at Game Night, it's very similar, but John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein make something super memorable out of something that could have failed. And I think this is a fun thing. I think my actors are better for the roles that they're in. And it would end with, basically you have this big fight, they end up winning. Dave shows that he can actually fight for himself, and same with Becky, and they team up to defeat Horvath, and then they wake up, and Dave wakes up in his bed in modern times and is like, yo, I just had this crazy dream. And he goes to visit Becky, and she's like, I don't think that was a dream. And then it ends. And then, it's more to show like they don't believe in themselves, but they kind of go on this crazy adventure to learn that they have what it takes to make it in modern day society when they're kind of doubting themselves to begin with. So I think that's a good character arc for the lead. And I think it works for the movie.
All right. Bobby, do you have any questions for them?
Yeah. For Tristan, so I know yours is a parody more of the genre, but do you have any specific parody moments towards other movies in yours, like that reference specifically anything else?
I didn't have a ton of very specific parody stuff. I thought it was more just take like the tropes of the genre and sort of the beats and the archetypes of the genre. Because even when you have Yen Sid in there, you're kind of directly parodying stuff already. Like you're going to parody like Sword in the Stone and stuff like that. And when he pulls the sword out of the stone, you're parodying that too. And I like to just parody sort of the tropes and the archetypes and the beats of the genre rather than something specific within the genre, like specific movies or characters or TV shows.
Okay, and then for Johnny, Game Night had the standout side character, neighbor, played by Jesse Plemons. Who do you think would be that type of character in this movie that would kind of steal the show side character type?
Well, my lead would be Pete Davidson and Becky, played by Melissa Villasenor. But I think the person that really, the two that steal the show are Will Forte and Kyle Mooney as their sorcerer roles. I think that Jesse Plemons played this great, like, obscure character, and he did that very well. And these two, which I think have shown on SNL that, like, I hate when most of the sketches are like, oh, we're going to play these really crazy characters, because those 99% of the time don't work. But Will Forte as MacGruber is such an underrated character, and that movie is one of the funniest movies ever, and I think it doesn't get its say. So you put Will Forte, who completely stole the show, and I think you should leave, had the best role in that whole show, and he's in one skit where they're on the airplane. You give him the ability to just kind of be all out crazy Will Forte, makes more sense to me in that role. And then Kyle Mooney is like the evil Horvath, is like the epitome of like what they really, really want to go for, like the Smurfs movie with like the villain, but you could actually do it with like an R character played by an actual funny actor.
Okay. And as far as our NFL watch along goes, the draft, it's very odd that the Kings of Leon are opening it up. Very odd band choice.
Well, their sex is on fire, Bobby.
It is, but they were playing, I think, Use Somebody, which is a very odd thing for the draft.
Modern days. Oh God. They didn't think that was.
All right.
All right, Joe.
Yeah, I don't really have a question for Tristan. My question, because Tristan kind of answered my question for Johnny, and that's more of like Tristan said where his comedy is coming from. Like, what are some like comedic moments, or like where does your comedy come from in your movie, Johnny?
I think mine would mainly be like basically two stoner characters thinking that all this is maybe fake, and then progressively getting into this and being like, this shit maybe isn't fake. Like that hurt.
Okay.
Will Forte like blowing him away, like Pete Davidson away with his magic and sending him across the room, and him being like what the fuck was that for? Like things like that. Like I think would work well, and Pete Davidson plays that well. If you watch the fight that he has in the King of Staten Island when he gets thrown into the pool and he's like, "You just tried to drown me," and then Bill Burr or whatever is like, "Dude, you're like 7 foot tall. You're fine." I think those moments work well for their comedy, and I want to play towards the actors in the movie very well.
And quick question for Tristan: who is your lead?
My lead is Andy Samberg.
Okay, right. All right, so it's like 1 hour, 1 minute, 50 seconds on the clock right now. We'll go for 5 minutes, and I'll warn you at 2 minutes. So yeah, fight it out.
I'll go first on this one since you went on the last one. And I like my cast a lot. I think Bill Hader in particular would be a really fun in that Yen-Sid role. I think I could see him playing that really straight. And you could see as he gets more and more annoyed, you could start to see like the really serious side, like that slipping a bit, and he starts to become a bit more jaded, a bit more like angry, and you can see that Bill Hader slipping out behind this like facade of the Yen-Sid. So I think that would be a really fun performance for Bill Hader. I think he's shown a lot of range, whether it's between Barry or whether it's a lot of his more comedic roles. So I think Bill Hader could definitely pull that Yen-Sid kind of role off. I think that's definitely where I see the most shine in my cast. I also really like Kristen Wiig and Adie Bryant as the two witches. I think they play off each other pretty well, and they're not huge roles either, so I don't think you have to worry about like them playing these characters too big or too long. They're in their scenes, and they have their parts in the story that kind of make fun of these villain characters that show up, but they're not the main characters. I think Andy Samberg can hold it down. Bill Hader can hold it down. Those are two great people who have led movies themselves and led TV shows themselves, and I think those are great leads. I have a lot of faith in them to lead these movies, so that's I feel strongly about my cast.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I was worried at first when you cast Bill Hader because I think he is only good if he's playing more of a toned down character. That's when he said his funniest, but I was worried you'd go like over the top with him. And I think while the character itself, I think a movie about fucking sorcerers and shit, I think you should go maybe more over the top. Your use of Bill Hader was smart as far as who you cast. I just don't think it fits. Like if you go for a comedy movie about sorcerers, and especially if it's a parody of things, like I don't necessarily think that's the right direction to go. But I agree that was much better than being like, oh, Bill Hader's this crazy kooky character that always sucks when he tries to do that. But I do worry. Yes, it's in a smaller role, but Kristen Wiig is at her worst, absolute worst, whenever she is like this over the top character, and she would 100% do that in this because she's only not done that in maybe 2 or 3 movies ever. And she's the worst. I can't fucking stand Kristen Wiig, so don't put that shit in here. She's only ever been good in the Skeleton Twins. This is more of a drama. And same with like The Martian when she doesn't actually try to tell jokes. So I don't need like those obscure like SNL, characters being played by those two women that just every time it happens, I feel like gives the wrong people on social media more fucking ammunition to be like, well, women aren't funny. Just look at these fucking performances. And I hate that shit. But that would just add fuel to the fire. But I think if you're going with a movie like that, like it's called The Sorcerer's Apprentice for one, and you cast Andy Samberg as the apprentice of Bill Hader, basically. They were born in the same fucking year. They're the same age. So it's not like a Sorcerer's Apprentice type of thing. I know Andy Samberg plays more of the man-child, but they are literally both the same.
And Bill Hader is not. Age. I mean, he's playing an ancient wizard who's coming down from the old age of
and
old.
I get that, but like I think if you're going to kind of parody these movies, like you need someone younger as the forefront, and I don't get Andy Samberg as your role for that.
Well, my parody,
and I don't think you're really parody as many things.
The parody is that the whole.
But no, that doesn't work. Like that doesn't work for what you're going for. I think if you're going to try to parody these, you needed to maybe do someone younger in the lead role. Because
that's how it always is, and I think that's the point. Like these are the sort of stories where it's like, oh, you have this random outcast from normal society, he gets chosen to be the savior, and I wanted to do that, but make him a little bit older. He's not just like a high school outcast. He's like this man-child adult who's forever been kind of in arrested development of his high school age, and I think that's more funny than just another high school kid getting this ancient power.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think if you're going with this, like, I want to see a comedy that kind of has growth of characters, and I don't need to see 40-year-old Andy Samberg have any growth as a character in a movie. And I get it's a parody, but at least he, like in Palm Springs is a great movie, and he shows growth as a character, but that's not the same type of shit that's going on in yours. I think just the development of especially like Pete Davidson's character would go pretty well in mine. I think it would actually pay homage to like the actual story frame around it. And yours, you say it's a parody, but it isn't, like, because there's nothing like your movie that's out that you're really like, okay, I'm going to take like these movies and take specific things and parody those. It's more of just, we're going to make a dumb comedy. Like, Pop Star's a great movie, but we're just going to make a pop star type movie set in like Sorcerer world. And I don't really get that. So Bobby distracted me with his comment mid-sentence. But yeah, anyway, I think going back to it, I think the strength of this movie is you have kind of the more straight role characters being the lead, and then you have all these obscure, crazy characters around them. And I think it kind of fails if the most obscure, crazy character is your lead, and then all the characters around him are like the more down-to-earth people. I don't think that's as funny as if you have like two people that think this shit's just like, oh, this shit's crazy, and you have them kind of reacting. I think that's good humor. It's like game night.
The initial 5 minutes is up. What I'm going to do, because I'm still torn 50-50, I don't know where Bobby stands. But
I'm in the same boat.
The one part that's really bothering me right now is your villains. Like, I don't know. Like, I know Kyle Mooney, but I don't know if he necessarily, like, I see him as, like, the big villain sorcerer, and I agree with what Johnny said earlier of, like, A.D. Bryant and Kristen Wiig. So, if anyone particularly wants to go first, I'm just going to give you, like, a minute each to defend your villain choice, and I think that might help me make my decision, because I don't know if I'm really sold on either villain choice.
I'll go first on mine. I think that I have these three villains that kind of lead together, so that neither one of them is sort of like the overshadowing person that takes on like all of the comedy weight. I think I don't want Kristen Wiig individually having to carry all of the villain comedy roles. I don't want A.D. Bryant to be individually having to carry all the villain comedy stuff. I don't want Jorma Taccone to be carrying all of the villain stuff by himself. I have this trio of villains who are able to play very different characters from each other and also play off of each other. So I think you can say you're not a huge fan of these people individually, but I think when you take them all at their best and you can edit out the worst, like you just have these three people performing these different roles, and I think you can get the best out of all three of them without having to rely on any of them as like the main comedy villain. And I think they each can play different kind of tropes for these characters too, which is because it's a parody. I want to have them all sort of playing like these different, like exaggerated tropes of what these villains would be. So I think you have these three different actors in those three different roles. That's what I like a lot about mine. I think they have the talent and they have the variety to play what the director chooses for them to play. So I think that, like you said, Pops Never Stop Popping is a great one, and I think they can get great performances out of people that otherwise aren't super great. So I'm confident in it. I went over my time, but
all right, you were finishing up your thoughts, so I'll let you go. Johnny, sing.
I would say this: Kyle Mooney. If you've never seen the Kyle and Leslie sketches on SNL, are maybe the best things they do right now, and he plays this super over the top character, and that's what I want to go with. I want to go with someone whose actual strength is being an over the top funny character. And Tristan went with Kristen Wiig, who at her worst is over the top. Same with the other actor she has in there, Amy Bryant too. Like, those people are unwatchable on SNL, but they're good if they do little spin-off movies and they do things where they're more down to earth, more
like little small roles in my movie.
Yeah, but like those are your main villains. Like, no matter what you say about small roles, like those are your villains, and even your main villain. Like, Tristan casts a bunch of people that at their worst are over the top. I went with someone whose strength is to be a funny dude who can do over the top things. He doesn't have a ton to do on SNL, but those are ones that, like, if you look at like what's most popular on YouTube for SNL, he's one of those people that appears and he can be funny in that role. And I think that's what separates the villain, because in this you need a good, funny, over the top villain, and not fucking Kristen Wiig being like the stupid ass drunk woman she played on like the Celebrity Jeopardy when she is unwatchable. I'd rather have a villain that is it steals the show than people that are
right.
unwatchable in the roles you cast them.
All right, I know. I think I have my decision locked in. Bobby, what are your
Okay.
thoughts?
I'm still relatively torn, so I'm glad you have a decision since you're making it. But I really like the idea of Tristan's movie, the way he pitched it, and I really like Johnny's director choice and the kind of perpetual comedy of game night for this type of movie. So those 2 points are kind of battling in my head as far as what I prefer. And I think, I don't know, it's tough. I think I'm leaning towards Johnny on this one just because of, I think, some of his cast choices and the director choice, but this is like a 51-49. I really like both pitches.
Also, Kyle Mooney graded as Baby Yoda on the Weekend Update, if you've ever seen that. Fantastic.
All right, so basically what it came down to, like I said, was the villains, and it kind of basically the movie is: do you want like a wizard version of Popstar Never Stop Never Stopping, or a wizard version of The King of Staten Island, which are two movies I really like. However, Tristan kind of kept the same director, and Johnny, I think, improved in the director area. I think the directors of Game Night are better than Judd Apatow, which gave him a little bit of boost. But also when it came down to the villain argument, what I heard a lot more, what he said, I don't know if necessarily what he meant, but to his, it almost sounded like he didn't have faith in all of them. And so it's kind of like trying to win by committee, where Johnny's felt more like a strong one singular villain, which I liked. And then one thing I was waiting for Johnny to bring up, and he never did, and so I wasn't really going to count it against Tristan, but it didn't help, was I don't think Joe McCone was ever technically a cast member. I think he was just writer.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I don't know enough about SNL to know.
Yeah, that wasn't a
I
deciding
made an
thing.
assumption, but I didn't.
Yeah,
that
that wasn't a deciding thing for me, but that it was just kind of confirmed my pick. So I am going with Johnny.
But he wrote for him, so
yeah.
I
it wasn't like a thing that it was like, oh, he was only a staff member, so you lose. It was more of like, okay, I'm kind of leaning Johnny here, and that was more of just like a confirmation of I'm going that way.
I had people.
It was very
first,
close.
I had to change things around. My original Balthazar was Jason Bateman, and then I was like, oh wait, he was never an actual member, so I had to change it. And I was way happier with Will Forte anyway, because Jason Bateman looks absolutely terrible in fucking Thunder Force. And R.I.P. all their careers after that movie.
All right, Tristan.
Let's go with the Remo Williams. The Adventure Begins, 1985 classic.
All right, and this was also my pick, so I am judging this round as well. And who is going first?
I'll go first on this one.
All right, so Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins, came out in 1985. It got a 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's about a New York cop who wakes up from a mysterious accident with a new identity. He finds himself in the employ of a secret unit which was set up to investigate a dangerous industrialist whose organization has secured several government armament contracts, including a top-secret strategic defense system. I should probably read these before I try to say them live on the internet. So there we go.
All right, Remo Williams. This is a movie I'd never even heard of. Yeah, apparently. I didn't even know it existed until it was chosen for this episode. So
Me either.
Intense research. I watched the movie. I watched a lot of videos about the movie. I watched some stuff just generally about like the making of the movie. And then I decided, you know what? Fuck that movie. I'm throwing out the entire plot of that movie and I'm just going to make my own. So I have like the basic of thing in it, but it's basically my own story. And my director is Pete Travis, who did Dread. I think he has kind of the action style I'm going for in this movie. And my cast, I have Wyatt Russell, fresh off of Falcon the Winter Soldier, where he killed it on there. Literally. He's playing Remo Williams in this. He's a war vet resurrected by a megacorp called Cure. Cure is a multi-trillion-dollar technology company with some control in nearly every major market, and they're trying to premiere a cure for death. So I'm going for sort of like this not super serious sort of action movie. You're not supposed to be thinking too hard about what's happening, but we open with a flashback to the war where Remo Williams, he's at the top of his game here. He's leading a squad of soldiers into a strike on a base. He's giving orders. He's taking down, bad guys in this war, and they charge and take down this base, and they discover that within the base is this kind of large-scale advanced science lab, and they're very confused. Like, this wasn't on their list. This wasn't part of the target. They're not sure what's going on. But before they can figure it out, the doors are all locked. They're all trapped, and they're seemingly all executed. So decades later, Remo wakes up. He's been preserved and resurrected by a company called Cure, who, like I said, is trying to cure death. They're this sort of mega corp that's trying to have the next huge big hit product be, we're going to cure death. And they've been using it by resurrecting these test subjects, whether they're soldiers who died in combat or it's people who dedicated their bodies to science, things like that. And they've been having some good luck, but the problems are some subjects are just coming back kind of different or changed or violent even. And some of them are really hungry for human brains. Because my rule for this is that I had to make Remo Williams' The Adventure Returns a zombie movie.
Oh, good work, Bobby.
So Cure has been bringing these people back, and the problem is that it's not going too well. They're starting to turn into zombies, and I didn't mention it earlier, but of course Cure is located primarily within the Statue of Liberty. Their base is in the Statue of Liberty, and so they have all of these zombified creatures here in this lab, and meanwhile, Remo Williams is going to meet with his son, who he learns is alive and still living there in New York. So his son comes in to meet him, and in walks Kurt Russell, playing Wyatt Russell's son. Grown up and fully adult now, we have his son, Kurt Russell, and the adult Wyatt Russell, who now have to sort of retake this base together, because when he's there visiting is, of course, happenstance when the zombies get out, they overtake this base, and they have to work together, whether it's Remo Williams, a trained killer from decades old, or it's Kurt Russell, a gunman for hire, retired now. He's old. He hasn't worked in a while, but together, this father and son duo of Wyatt Russell and Kurt Russell work together to take down these zombies, to take down Cure, and they have this big final battle at the Statue of Liberty, similarly to the original, where they're fighting on the scaffolding, they're killing all these zombies. They have this big kind of battle up the Statue of Liberty to finally take it back and save the city, because that's Remo Williams. You know, the adventure rises. That's my title, and it's a zombie movie. What do you want? You got Wyatt Russell, you got Kurt Russell fighting side by side, and Kurt Russell's the son, Wyatt Russell's the dad. Fun little twist on that, and that's my pitch for Remo Williams.
All right.
Wyatt Russell loves his zombie movies.
Yeah, Wyatt Russell being in another shitty zombie would be great.
You mean a great zombie movie?
No. Sounds a little too much like Overlord, which was terrible. Okay, so here's my pitch. And again, I had to change a couple things on this one, and I was very upset about it. But here's my thing. My director is Coralie Forgy, who did a fucking amazing movie called Revenge. If anyone has never seen it, it's on Shudder on Amazon Prime. I recommend that channel. There's a million great movies on there. But she is a great director and has shown the action and stuff that I'm looking for. My Remo Williams is going to be played by someone who just made himself a goddamn superstar in my eyes, and that's Max Huang, who was in Mortal Kombat as, I literally just fucking wrote it down, as Kung Lao, the dude with the fucking sombrero, as Kano would call him. He made himself a goddamn star. He stole that movie. He's my lead as Remo Williams. My Chiun is going to be played by Byung-hun Lee, who is also one of my favorite actors of all time. He was in I Saw the Devil. He's shown that he can work in American films in things like The Magnificent Seven. My assassin, I'm going to say, I'll reveal its name, I guess. It doesn't probably matter. I guess his name is Sagwa the Assassin. No one fucking knows Remo Williams canon. And that's going to be played by my other favorite person in Hollywood right now, Andrew Koji, who is in my favorite show currently, Warrior. So this is what I'm going to go with. Also, the rule that I had to go with on this movie was one must include a character made famous by Christian Bale. So I went with, oh God, 1 second. I got to change something. Not even change something. I got to look something up.
He didn't pick one. He's cheating.
Yeah.
No, I picked one, but I didn't write down.
It's Batman.
His
the movie,
character
and I'll
name?
forget what it's called.
Bruce Wayne.
The prison movie.
Yeah, Bruce Wayne. I
No, it's a
need to
movie
find
I've
that.
seen. Okay. All right, so the character I went with is Jim Luther Davis. He is from a film that Christian Bale did in 2005 called Harsh Times. So he is at the beginning of my movie. He's going to be playing someone who is part of a drug deal taking place in like this old abandoned building, and this is where I will do my pitch. So the film begins with two detectives, Detective Sam Macon and Detective Johnson, staking out a rundown building. They have a conversation about the deal that is supposed to go down and radio to fellow officers about waiting to storm it in with backup. It cuts to Jim Luther Davis's character, or Christian Bale's character, Jim Luther Davis, it being the lead of basically a bunch of unknown people, but they are in a warehouse doing a drug deal. Sam notices something and asks if Johnson saw something moving on the roof. Johnson says he did not, and they need to stick to their plan. A few moments later, there's gunfire heard from within the building. The detectives radio for backup and rush the building. Cut to the assassin, played by Andrew Koji, just killing everybody in sight. In there with ease by himself. And they take cover and look inside. There's one man left, Jim Luther Davis, on his knees, asking the assassin, who is he? And the assassin breaks his neck by twisting it, like how movies do, like that. And then
thanks for the demonstration.
You're welcome. In case you
Wait,
can
you do that again? I completely missed it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You twisted to death.
Okay.
That's a TikTok.
Sure. And so they watch him finish him off. Police sirens are heard as they raid the office, as a raid of officers storm the building, and the two detectives give chase. The mysterious man slips out, and the detectives split up. Johnson is stealthily killed by the man they are chasing. Sam spots him fleeing and chases him down. I meant to mute, and I didn't mean to.
Well done.
This is going to be an annoying
Great
pitch.
pitch.
I just lost my place. I meant to hit mute, but I clicked my screen and it just changed what I was clicked on. All right, Johnson is stealthily killed by the man they are chasing. Sam spots him fleeing and chases him down. The two fight until they are out of bullets. They have a fist fight on the balcony of another abandoned warehouse while Sam gets in a couple of shots. The man is too skilled a fighter and ends up kicking Sam off the roof to his presumed death before making his escape. Cut to 1 week later. Sam wakes up in what appears to be a hospital bed. There is a man sitting in the room with Sam. There's a man sitting in the room with him. The man introduces himself as the head of the organization called Cure and explains that Sam just went toe-to-toe with the deadliest assassin in the world, and no one has ever survived a one-on-one encounter with him. Sam is recruited to join Cure under a new name. His death certificate being faked, he is now known as Remo Williams. The head of Cure is also a man named Cheyenne. Remo trains under the tutelage of Cheyenne, a martial artist and former hitman. This is the main second act of the film. The third act is the organization reaching out to Cheyenne that the assassin's location has been tracked and they need to make a move. Cheyenne argues that Remo is not ready and they will be sending him to his death. Remo persists that he is ready, being motivated by revenge for the death of his former partner. Cheyenne then reveals he cannot step into the fight to help because the assassin they are going to stop was his first pupil and his nephew named Sagwa. So the film ends with Remo Williams stealthily going into Sagwa's kind of lair and taking out bodyguards and things like that one by one, and eventually getting to Sagwa. The two have an epic fight in Sagwa's office, and Sagwa actually wins and is about to kill Remo Williams, but Cheyenne steps in and says, "I'm sorry, my nephew, but I must do this," and he kills Sagwa after another epic fight. So you have two big-ass, cool-ass fight scenes at the end, and Cheyenne going in and doing it. You have something that could set up a franchise because you have room for growth from the main character of Remo Williams. And I think My movie, I did a lot of research into the book. The book Destroyer that Remo Williams was introduced in is being made by Shane Black in a future adaptation, actually. And I put into work into knowing these. While Tristan looked up a bad movie, I did some research into the things, and I think it's actually a fucking badass character that I'm super excited for. I don't know what the fuck Shane Black has to do with it, but he's basically a dude that he was a former like FBI agent or cop, and they fake his death, and then he becomes Remo Williams, and he learns like a South Korean martial art, and it's literally a fucking martial arts movie that they turned into some shitty movie with the Empire State Building or with the Statue of Liberty into it, just like Tristan did. So my movie is badass. It encapsulates the character of Remo Williams, and it sets up an epic franchise. So that's my movie.
All right. Well, Trevor Lawrence officially Jacksonville Jaguar.
Yeah, who could have seen that?
Such a shock. Also, 30 minutes in, and the first pick happens from their
Jesus
broadcast.
Christ!
Sounds like our show.
Yeah. They had to show they had to show Kings of Leon. They had to use somebody and have some fiery sex.
Literally the pick that everyone has known for probably 3 years. They took the half hour to do. So congrats.
Did Anthony Hopkins get picked yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. They're waiting till
That'll be the very end of the draft.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to shock the world by drafting him last.
Yep. New quarterback after Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But they're getting younger.
But back to the task at hand, Bobby. Any questions for either of them?
Not particularly. I mean, I understand where you're both going with your movies. Johnny did a little more research into apparently the book, which I didn't know existed. So
yeah. I looked up the book. I think it's a comic book, but I looked it up after I sent this, and I'm like, oh shit, this movie could actually be amazing. So
yeah, I did not because you chose it, and I looked at the movie,
and I looked it up, and I'm like, oh shit, this shit is everything down my alley. It's a fucking martial arts movie. Goddamn right. And I get to cast a guy from fucking Mortal Kombat. You're fucking right, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, I get both movies. I mean, we got, makes sense for what Johnny pitched for his, and and Tristan sounds fun. So
yeah, two very different movies, I think. So
yep.
Yeah, I don't have a question for either. If anything pops up, I'll let you go. But yeah, 5 minutes on the clock.
I just tried to make mine as badass and as fun as I possibly could, and that's what I went for. You got Wyatt Russell, you got Kurt Russell. That's a great pairing. I think it's fun to have that twist where
imagine pitching that if you were let's see who had that idea. Let's see, it was me last week last episode we had a fight when Joe didn't fucking do that for Lone Ranger, and I said, you know what would be cool? Those two as father and son.
Yeah, it would be cool.
And
sorry, quick interruption.
Movie, it wouldn't be.
Quick interruption. I do have a question. Who is your director, Tristan?
I have the director who did Dredd. Pete Travis.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That bad ripoff of the Raid.
I mean, I have a note on that
he didn't even fucking direct that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Wasn't it someone else?
It was Garland.
Yeah,
Alex That's what I thought. I looked it up and I was like, why is he listed as the director? This is so weird.
Because he got directing credit because he took over a movie that was done by someone else.
Well, no, it's Alex Garland directed it behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, it's Garland's movie then.
That's the story. That's the story.
It's not. It's canon. You went with the guy.
It's canon that I went with the director of Dredd, which was Alex Garland. Either way, I'm going for a Dredd tone with this, where it's like you get these badasses in the lead who are just taking people down. You don't need any really depth to this. You don't need a lot of complexity. You're just seeing these cool actors do cool stuff, fight these bad guys who are just on really very big bad guys, that have the cure for death and they're holding it to themselves, and they've created the zombie outbreak, and now Kurt Russell and Remo Williams are the saviors of the universe, and they have to fight together and have this big action finale. I think the fight at the Statue of Liberty is definitely the most iconic part of the original movie. I think it's actually a really cool finale. I think a lot of the action in that movie is not that bad, but I think especially the fight on the Statue of Liberty is pretty cool, and that's the big standout thing, because the Statue of Liberty was under construction at the time of them filming it, so they had to work with the scaffolding and work with what was there in front of them. So it's kind of interesting to watch that final scene at least. But I wanted to pay tribute to that in mind by having there be the Statue of Liberty and going for that kind of bigger tone. Now I just think yours doesn't sound as exciting, as interesting, as badass as mine does. It just
Sure,
sounds like
Tristan, sure.
another
Okay,
kung
so
fu movie.
here's my thing. Oh, another kung fu movie. First of all,
Yeah.
another shitty zombie movie is way worse than any kung fu movie. Zombie movies are 90% terrible, and yours just sounds like another Overlord, which was unwatchably terrible.
I thought Overlord was really good.
No, Overlord was fucking garbage.
I
And
like
here's my thing. Here's my thing with Wyatt Russell. He's good in Captain America, or as the fake Captain America in Bird Boy and Bucky, because he plays unlikable very well. Any movie that he's ever been in,
2 minutes.
outside of like a comedy like 22 Jump Street, where he's been a lead and he's supposed to be like the likable good guy character that would be what he is as Remo Williams, he fails at it. I think he is destined to be villainous. I think Kurt Russell is the most likable person ever, so they kind of shoehorn Wyatt Russell into those roles, but he fails at them every time he's in them. He's the worst part of Overlord, and after that movie, I was like, who the fuck is this scrub? But then he's kind of earned my respect back, like showing me that he could do a good villain. I think he is the wrong choice for like a lead of a franchise. I think he would be a great villain in movies, and I think that's where his career path should go towards, because he's obviously better at that. And my other thing is this. My movie, if you read what Remo Williams is, it's very much white savior takes over Korean martial arts and basically just all of the like mistakes that Iron Fist kind of made, like the TV show and stuff. I'm correcting those mistakes. I'm taking a character that actually has a cool backstory, putting someone that in the right role that isn't just a white savior, where your movie kind of is. And I'm correcting the character in terms of the history
has a
of
white
it.
main character.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a white man saving the universe. That's a white savior. So he's saving the universe and he's white.
I guess
so
I don't think that's what white savior means. But...
That is. And the other thing is this. Like, he's a martial artist. I think that's a cool fucking thing for a lead in a movie. Like, we just saw the Shang-Chi looks incredible, and I want to see more big budget kind of films like that. And I'd rather see that than whatever yours is supposed to be. So
mine's going to be a really fun action movie like Overlord.
No, it won't
going
be.
For that kind of tone.
You think that Overlord was garbage?
Overlord was great. Wyatt Russell,
Overlord
I have cast him because he's going to play a character that has grit. I think you mentioned he plays villainous roles, not like good guy hero roles, and that's why I cast him. I want him to have this kind of gritty past. He's not like this good soldier guy.
He's resurrected from the dead, and he's a war. Yeah, let's bring in some dude who's never directed a real movie before, and then he's gonna resurrect some dude from the dead that no one ever knows. No, fuck that. I'm gonna make a cool martial arts movie. Like it's gonna come down to this. Do you want to see a cool movie like The Raid, or do you want to see a shitty movie like Overlord, or even like Dread is fine. Like, it's fine. It's very overrated. It's just a bad version of The Raid. And I think that kind of is what you do. Like, if you want to compare two movies and you look at The Raid compared to Jesus Christ, they did it. They drafted that scrub from BYU. Anyway,
that was expected.
That distracted me completely. But yeah, Zach Wilson, he's the next Mitch Trubisky. Congratulations, Jets. You're a terrible franchise.
I actually go against that, but we'll see how it works out.
You're wrong. So, yeah, I don't know. Going back to it, I'd rather see a movie with really badass fight scenes of people that were stuntmen and have shown that they can do action than actors that literally got into Hollywood because of nepotism be forced into action movies that is always boring and bad. The only good action is hand-to-hand combat, and I don't need to see Wyatt Russell like shooting zombies like with 85-year-old Kurt Russell. Like, right. Sure. Whatever.
Tristan, I want to hear your defense of your movie real quick.
I think mine sounds like a ton of fun. You have these two guys together. And I think Johnny is going on about like, oh, Wyatt Russell is like this nepotism fed, like nothing actor or something. And I think he's shown in Falcon the Winter Soldier he can do action really well. He can play that kind of mixed character really well, where you want to root for him, but he's doing bad stuff. And you don't want to like. And I think that he's going to be a lot more good in this than he is in Falcon and the Winter Soldier as a character. I mean, he's like a war vet with this gritty past of doing these operations for the government, so he has this little bit of grit to him, and he's playing off of his father, who's going to be a much more gritty character, who's been this kind of gun for hire throughout his life, and now he's Kurt Russell's 70, so he's going to be a 70-year-old. He's retired from his gun for hire kind of life, so he's that more grit character. I think they play off each other really well. I don't know what I mean. Overlord was a great one. Dread was a great one. I'm going for that kind of that kind of tone, that kind of style with it. If you like those fun action movies, you're not supposed to be, thinking too hard about the complexity of it. You're not supposed to be thinking about the origin stories of the characters. I don't give a fuck about Remo Williams' like comic book panel origin story. I'm just making a fun action movie with Wright and Kurt Russell, and that's what I'm pitching. If you want a fun Dread style, Overlord style movie, that's what you got from me. So that's all I can really defend it. If you want that, you get it.
All right.
In the Statue of Liberty, sure.
Bobby, what are your thoughts?
I'm leaning one direction. I think I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we've gone for a while on this one, so yeah. If you wanna.
Yeah, so it comes down to me because I think both movies do sound fun. If they were coming out, I'd be like, I'd watch those. Neither of them blow me away. But I think what it comes down to is that I think that Tristan stumbled a little bit with his director choice, not really knowing that whole background with Dread, and then going with Alex Garland, switching it. I think that's also just a bad choice based on what Alex Garland has been doing lately to do a movie like this. So I think Johnny's movie sounds fun. It sounds like a good action movie. I'm leaning that direction personally. But Tristan's actual pitch for the movie does sound fun, so I'd watch it. But I think Johnny kind of had the whole package.
Yeah, Tristan. I was kind of in the same boat of Tristan sound fun, but I feel like Tristan sounds like the best possible version of the movie we got. Granted, with zombies thrown in, which is what he was stuck with, and I thought he incorporated that fine. But I feel like Johnny's was the kind of best version of the comic source material, and I'm not to be like, oh, the comic source material is just. I'm going with that because it's the source material. I think the source material is better than the movie we got, and then I feel like
it's cool.
It's a remake show. You remake the movie.
I mean, we've changed things up.
It's a reboot show.
Remake, reboot, whatever. His is Remo Williams. The whatever. We've changed movies to the point that they're unrecognizable.
I don't remember any zombies in the original one.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to penalize him for that. He was stuck with that, and that's a rule that we've had. There's no zombies in any of these movies. I'm not going to penalize you for putting zombies in because that's the rule you were kind of given. But yeah. But yeah, I'm going.
Yeah, no, the zombie movie thing. I mean, obviously, I put it there. I think that could have made a fun, bizarre movie, but
it did. You just didn't pick it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you just I think it just stumbled a little bit.
I think you just fucked up, bro.
Yeah.
Made a shit movie. That's fine.
I mean, it sounded great to me.
Not me, but
I like Overlord. I think Tristan's movie would be good. I just like Johnny's better.
I'm astonished that people like Overlord. I thought that movie was unwatchable. And
also, it's hard. I was gonna say, but I forgot. It's hard for me to believe in your Wyatt Russell argument of he's not a good lead when you said last week for mine when I picked him for whatever the hell that movie he was in, The Lone Ranger, where you're like, oh, I didn't really believe in him, but now I feel like he'd make a good lead after seeing Cap. So that whole argument,
people grow, Joe. People grow.
I just didn't care.
I stand by that though. I do think he's a better villain than he is a hero. I don't want them to just shoehorn him in as the next big franchise guy because I don't think he works.
Let's go with another unwatchable movie and make it Jumper from 2008.
Let me
get
Oh God!
All right, this is Bobby's pick. So
thanks, Bobby, you fucking asshole.
I'll make Johnny go first on this one.
All right, so Jumper's
I like the premise of this movie.
Yeah,
I do enjoy the premise.
The execution.
So Jumper's from 2000. All right, I'll read this at some point, I guess. Jumper's
whatever you want, Joe.
Jumper's from 2000.
Go ahead, Joe. You can read the premise.
You can go now, Joe.
You know what? Jumper. Anakin Skywalker's in it. He jumps fucking around. It sucks ass. That's the movie. He can fucking teleport. Boom. There you go. Anakin Skywalker can teleport.
Yep.
There you go. Pitch your movie, Johnny.
Okay. I realized the mistake I made. But I'm just going to stick with it. I use 2 rules for this movie. Repeat a rule be damned.
Well, pick one maybe. I don't know.
Well, the one I picked for him is kind of ingrained into his plot, I imagine. So that's probably the strap.
Yeah, so we had to switch one around.
Joe chose the rule of must include a historical event, which affects my plot. And then I fucked up and was going to resurrect someone's career in a different movie, and I changed this one to resurrecting someone's career. So I don't know what exactly I'm doing here. I guess I'm just going with both rules. My director is Matthew Vaughn. He's shown that he can work with historical events, and he's shown that he can make fun movies that are based off some former source material. My lead is Millie. That is going to be played by Melanie Laurent, who is in Inglourious Bastards, and her career dropped off a fucking cliff. So I am resurrecting her career, even though I also have a historical event in this movie. She's my lead, and I'm resurrecting her career as the lead. My Roland, who's my bad guy, is going to be played by J.K. Simmons, and my character Griffin is going to be played by Stephen Yeun, my favorite. And then Theodore Roosevelt will be Nick Offerman, which I think is great casting.
Yeah, love it.
We'll get into why that makes any sense. All right, so Millie, formerly David, played by Joey Badass about an hour ago. But Millie is a young woman who, after being chased by men she stole from, discovers she has the ability to teleport. She uses this power for her benefit and does petty crimes and feels on top of the world, being able to steal and teleport away from danger. Things change when a man named Griffin visits Millie. He is also what he explains to be a jumper, and this is not a power to be wasted for selfish gain. He also explains there's an organization designed to kill people like them, and the head is a man named Roland. Just then, Roland storms the apartment building with troops, and the two have to escape. It is revealed Roland has the ability to jump, but has taken it to the next level after capturing some other jumpers. He can jump back and forth in time. The plot of the movie is Roland plans to go back in time and assassinate Theodore Roosevelt and run for president himself, knowing the future. He wants the USA to be allies with Germany starting in 1912 to eventually change the outcome of World War II by the U.S. being strong allies with Germany during the Nazi regime and backing them in the war. So David and Griffin discover how to follow. Millie and Griffin discover how to follow Roland back in time and stop the assassination attempt of Theodore Roosevelt in 1912, which is a real event. So they go back there. You have a lot of the fight scenes like in old school 1912, which I think it'd be cool for Matthew Vaughn to do a period piece type of set pieces, but also have superpowers like of people jumping around. I think that's a cool use of his directing style. So I want to encompass both of those. And it will end with Theodore Roosevelt actually being shot, but surviving, just like the actual historical event that happened. So that is my movie where I used two rules.
All right.
Instead of just being able to repeat a role.
I got distracted by the 49ers drafting Trey Lance. So who was your resurrecting the career? Yeah.
No way.
I told you that was going to happen in my intro. I said in the intro that they were going to draft Trey Lance. That changed up today from Mac Jones.
Yep. So from that, who did you resurrect again in accident?
Melanie Laurent from Inglourious Bastards, the French chick.
Yeah,
the French one.
Yeah,
she's
from
great.
Inglourious Bastards.
All right, Shoshana. She's great in that movie.
Yeah. After that, besides one movie in 2013, and then hasn't done anything. I'm very sad about it.
Yeah.
She was originally in my pitch for Remo.
She's great, and I always mix her up with whoever was in the Now You See Me movies.
Those movies that fucked up and didn't name the sequel. Now you don't.
Yeah,
that has to be a movie for our remakes. I feel like Now You See Me is prime for a movie change-up.
Yeah, I'm done with it.
Yeah, I don't need to see Mark Zuckerberg doing magic tricks.
All right, Tristan, what's your pitch? So we're not here until 11 o'clock.
Yeah, we're going on about everything now. For a jumper, my rule that I had to use was you must resurrect an actor's career for the lead role. And I'll say my director that I picked before I forget was Kathy Yan. She directed Birds of Prey last year, which is pretty good. And she also did Dead Pigs, which is really, really good. If you want to watch a great premiere feature film. I'm excited to see what she does next after those two movies. But hopefully it's Jumper. And the person that I resurrected for my lead role, I think we're in an era of nostalgia and an era of people kind of revisiting roles. So my lead is Hayden Christensen as David. He played David in the original movie. So I'm resurrecting his career, which has obviously been downhill since the Star Wars prequels. But I think he's primed for a bit of a revival. He's got the Obi-Wan stuff coming out. He'll be back in the public eye. So I want to see him get another shot at this. Because like you said, I think the premise is really good. So I'd like to see the actor get a shot to do that well. The romantic interest of the movie is Kristen Ritter. You know her from Breaking Bad and Jessica Jones. I have two agents who are investigating him, played by Chris Rock and Lance Reddick. And I have a sort of terrorist character that's like a big bad guy in the background, played by Christian Slater. I also have a small part for his mom, played by Kim Basinger. So I have David. He's kind of a loner. He's been working this kind of terrible job at a grocery store with his kind of abusive boss. He's always yelling at him, always complaining, always making him work late and that kind of stuff. He's a very unconfident person. His life isn't really going anywhere, but he doesn't have the confidence to change it or to introduce himself to people or things like that. And he has a girl that works there with him, played by Jessica Jones. He's like his crush. He wants to ask her out or hang out with him more, and he just can't really get the confidence to do it. And he develops the power to jump almost instantly to any place he can think of when he meets an ancient jumper who informs him of like this past lineage along his family line of jumpers. And he's decided that he's going to use this newfound jumping power to change his life. He begins to sort of rob banks to pay off his student loans and his debts. He eventually gets a little more ambitious. You know, maybe he's stealing a TV from like a Best Buy. Maybe he's helping someone who gets out I wrote here like small local cat and tree level problems. Like he's just doing these small little things, help people out around the town and just building up his confidence, building up his abilities. And meanwhile, because he's had this new confidence, he's a lot more assertive in his life. He's a lot more confident, not just in his powers, but in his life. So he decides to ask out Jessica Jones's character. I mean, not Jessica Jones, Kristen Ritter's character. And they go out to this lavish dinner. He's treating her to like everything she wants. You know, he has all this money that he just came to, and he's really kind of showing it. And she's impressed, and she's kind of questioning him a bit, like, "Oh, where'd you get the money?" And not like blaming him, but just curious. And he's coming up with these stories and not really giving her the answer. It's going well though. He's having a good night, and then news breaks at this restaurant that there's been a hostage crisis happening in New York City, halfway across the country, and this group, I mentioned Christian Slater is kind of the leader of these bad guys, and he's taken over these people and holding them hostage in New York. So David says, "Oh, I need to go to the bathroom. Can I take a bathroom break really quick before they get dessert?" So he runs to the bathroom and jumps from there to New York, and he has this sort of little small action scene where he's jumping around, he's saving these hostages and kind of moving around these terrorists who are holding him. And I think it'd be fun to see how they could pull that action off, because he's not fighting. You know, I went with a bit of an older actor for it, and I think that works because he's not fighting. He's just kind of jumping and grabbing people, moving things, and I wanted to sort of figure fun ways to use that power. And I think that my director, Kathy Yan, showed in Birds of Prey she can have really stylish, cool action, so I think she would be able to pull that off. So anyway, he saves these hostages and then jumps back to his dinner date, and everything seems to be going all good. You know, she's just like, "Oh, long bathroom break," and didn't really think of where he went. But of course, that big of a show of power puts him on the radar of a lot of people. So the NSA is now on his tail. I've mentioned Chris Rock and Lance Reddick are these kind of duo investigators coming after him. That's a throwback to the book that Jumper was inspired by. It was very, very focused on the NSA hunting down David, and David's like fight against not just like bad guys and terrorists, but against the government who's kind of trying to oppress them and overstep their bounds. So I wanted to get that kind of government overstep theme in here from the original book that got super cut out from the movie, one of the big problems of the movie. So now he has not just NSA on him, but he also has this group that he attacked, these terrorist groups, says, "Oh, this guy came in and he teleported around and he took everybody out." So they're trying to find this guy. So we get in from that. You have this journey of him experimenting with his powers, having fun, and now, of course, it's turning against him, and everything is sort of falling apart, and he's using his powers to try and fight against these terrorists to escape from these NSA guys, and they all kind of close in on his apartment, his home where his mom lives, and he's been recently reconnecting with his mom now that he has new confidence as well, so his mom's a bit back into his life like she wasn't before. And the terrorists have attacked David there, and they have this kind of big this big fight right there, and then a bomb goes off, and David, he was kind of distracted by the whole confrontation, so he wasn't able to grab anybody to jump with them, so he just jumps himself and looks up and realizes, oh my God, my apartment blew up, my mom died, and so did Lance Reddick's character, Harry, the cop partner. So now the only two remaining characters are David and Chris Rock's. And Chris Rock has this like final kind of chase where he's chasing down David, and David's chasing down the terrorist, and you have this final chase. They're all chasing each other, and David is set to kill this terrorist. He killed his mom. He killed a cop right in front of him, and he's gonna kill this terrorist. But he captures him, and he kind of has this moment, this change of heart, where he realizes, like, I have to give you up to the law, even if the law won't help me. I want them to be able to hold you accountable, because if I kill you, then I'm not much better than you are. So he surrenders the terrorist to Chris Rock, and Chris Rock says, "Oh, weird thing that I just found this guy out here passed out with nobody around, isn't it?" Essentially saying, like, you can leave this one time, but if I see you again, of course, I'm still going to arrest you. And then it would set up like this Commissioner Gordon, Batman kind of relationship with them in future movies. So I wanted to set up a sequel there with that, where Hayden Christensen is sort of this vigilante and Chris Rock is the guy working along with them. And we've seen Hayden Christensen's character grow from this very unconfident person to very assertive, very confident, and he gets a girl at the end. He's more respected at his job because he stood up to his boss and those kinds of things. So you see that journey of his character, and that's my pitch for Jumper.
All right, Bobby.
All right, Joe. Because I'm making the final call. Do you have any questions on it? Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty heavily leaning one way right now.
Yeah, so am I.
Any questions to add to this?
Not really, no.
All right.
Anything I can say?
Yes. Okay. At least to start, defend Hayden Christensen coming back for a reboot of Jumper.
I said at the front. I think nostalgia is like a big thing now, and everyone's like revisiting the roles and coming back to new.
All that nostalgia towards fucking Jumper.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I feel like I don't think anyone has.
Don't use
Jumper
nostalgia as your argument when it's not.
Different argument, I guess.
Well, okay, then I'll say like Hayden Christensen, I think is prime for a comeback. I think I would love to see him back in these bigger roles, and I think that this is a role that it would be fun to see him revisit. We've talked about how the premise is really good, and it's based off of a book that's also got really good reviews. I tried to lean into the book a bit more, and I was inspired by his return to Anakin because I think they're giving him a second chance to do that character well and to sort of set his legacy in that character a little better. So I'd like to see him. Because in my mind, he would be like the first Jumper in this one. Then in the sequel, maybe he's like an advisor Jumper to the next generation of people or whatever. And then he kind of retires from it. But like, I would like this to be like his movie where he comes in and he's finally able to do this. Because the books are popular and it would be fun to see him do this role that he's kind of hated for and get a chance to do it right again, which would be something fun that I would like.
Okay.
Can I just make a quick argument? I feel like you guys already know your outcome, but
most likely.
I'll say this.
So wait, Joe, do we want to put some type of qualification on the timer for this one, or?
I mean, you guys already have your mind. I want to hear Johnny's point, and then I want to hear you guys' arguments.
I have a couple points here. One, Hayden Christensen, I think people blame his failed career on Star Wars, and yes, that's one big reason because he's awful in those, but he did an awful movie called Awake. He was terrible in Takers. He was awful in the first Jumper. And the first Jumper had Sam Jackson, Michael Rooker, Kristen Stewart, and Jamie Bell, who all went on to fantastic careers showing that they can act well. And that movie failed because of his acting. It was directed by Doug Liman, who went on to do Edge of Tomorrow and American Made, which are two fantastic, fun movies. That movie failed because of Hayden Christensen. So bringing him back is a big mistake because he has shown in his career that he just is not capable of leading movies. I've resurrected his career before, but it was like Bullseye and Daredevil when he has a smaller role and he plays a character that doesn't lead it. I think that's more something that if he wanted to bring back his career, it would work. But he's just shown in his career he does not work as a leading man. And my thing with it, too, is like Bobby and Joe and Tristan admitted going into this was Jumper had a great premise. And why did that movie fail? Because you had a really stale lead character that basically made that movie bomb. So if a movie with a really great supporting cast, a good director, and a great premise failed, I think it's easy to say that Hayden Christensen was the problem. Tristan just fell into the same trap that he did when he made Superman Returns and brought back two actors that made that movie not work. And I think my movie has a better cast, better director, more interesting storyline, and uses jumping in time to make it
jumping
work.
in time is not part of the premise.
Yeah, but mine, I mean, I'd say that my movie, like making
and
jumping
also,
in
if they can
time
travel through
makes
time, why aren't they
cool.
saving everyone? You know, why don't they just go back and save everyone?
They literally do. They go save Theodore Roosevelt.
But why can't they? Why can't they just save everyone?
They save the U.S. from becoming allies with Nazi Germany. They go back in time to prevent that from happening. So, yeah, that's the whole point.
I mean, look, you guys clearly know where you're going with this. I think that Hayden Christensen would be a good, fun choice for this. I don't agree with you guys.
No one's ever said about his career.
I think you guys are a little too harsh on him. I think.
Have you ever seen Takers? Have you ever seen Jumper? Have you ever seen?
I've seen Jumper. I've seen Shattered Glass. I've seen
awful.
He won a Golden Globe.
Have you seen Goosebumps?
Did you say he won a Golden Globe?
He won a Golden Globe for
no, he didn't.
Broken Glass.
Yeah, for Shattered Glass, which was movie that was surrounded by better actors.
Yeah, but actually, on a real note, have you seen the Goosebumps episode that he's in?
I have seen that. Classic.
It's so bad. He's bad.
He's just not a good lead. Like, I think there's a role in Hollywood for him. I'm excited that he's back as Darth Vader, but he's not a lead man. He's not. Yeah. What killed his career was not even his acting ability. It was being cast as Anakin, being shoehorned into lead roles that he just can't do.
Right. Joe, do you have anything to add?
Yeah,
to
like,
this?
I mean, with the whole director, I was not a fan of Birds of Prey at all. I didn't like it at all. So, like, that director choice didn't help me. It wasn't like, this amazing director that's known for, pulling out these great performances, at least as far as I'm aware of, where it's like, okay, maybe they could get something out of Hayden. Like, it's just a director I'm not a fan of, so I just don't. It all just compounded into a movie that I was, like, not hyped about.
Yeah,
a lot of bad calls today.
I had fun with Birds of I had fun with Birds of Prey, but I thought it was directed poorly.
And that's literally the worst part of the movie.
Right. So
I mean,
that didn't help. And honestly, just the Hayden Christensen thing is just kind of hard to get over. If
I changed the actor and the director, would it have been any better?
Yes.
Yeah, like the plot line and storyline and all that was fine. I liked the plot and story. It was just
it would have been harder to fight.
Yeah, I completely agree. The plot that you put together works completely. It would have been a fight.
And especially because I had to delete half of my pitch going into this because
I hate this rule.
My lead was
but the rule, I mean,
it was him going back into 1912 and then an Asian character and a black character having to deal with all the hate in the 1900s while also trying to save the world. Like, I literally deleted 90% of my pitch. So I think you would have won if you went with a smarter choice on director and didn't waste your time.
Honestly, I think you need to stray away from bringing back actors from previous movies when you don't have to. Is really because especially with, I mean, like, look, I think Hayden Christensen can, like Johnny said, has a role in Hollywood, and I'm rooting for him. I hope he's great in Obi-Wan with his role, but I don't think he's a leading man. I think he's shown he lacks the charisma, and that kind of played out already in his career.
I will say that I did a similar mistake to Johnny, where I had to change it at the last second to be a lead, and I originally had him as a much smaller role.
That would have been way better. That would have been way better.
I didn't realize that you guys had as a lead, so I just had it as, I saw resurrect an actor's career, so I was like, that's what we always do.
So if that messed both of you up, it messed Tristan up on this one completely for me then.
Yeah,
I won both of my pitches. I had to change from that though, so.
I was about to say to Tristan, if you had brought him back in like the Jamie Bell role, I would have been a lot more interested, and I thought it would have been a lot more intriguing. So I would say that.
Right.
So
your original idea. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, even if you had brought him back in like the Jamie Bell role, I think it still would have been a fight. It was just like as the lead, I didn't know about, but
yeah. So that's more against like both of you had the rule choice kind of mixed up. Because your original idea, then it would have
Doesn't
come
sound
down
like our
to
fault.
right. It would have come down to basically the director choice, and I think that kind of put you behind because as much
All
fun
right.
as I had with that movie, so it wasn't the greatest.
Yeah,
but
we need to move on.
we got to
We
move
have
on
yeah.
to
left,
the
and I already
next
won.
one.
Let's
so
go
Johnny
with-
wins.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Johnny wins, but Tristan is now trying to keep the repeater rule from happening again.
We've got two left, right? We've
Yeah,
got Master
Man
of the
from
Universe
U.N.C.L.E.
and Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's do Man from U.N.C.L.E. and I'll have Johnny go first.
All right, to speed this along, it's a movie from 2015 starring Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer. Please don't bring Armie Hammer in your movie, or you'll probably lose.
I'm resurrecting his career as the lead.
It's a Cold War spy movie based on a TV show. There you go. It was fine.
Right, so
I liked it,
I'll,
but no one else did, so they didn't make any more.
I liked it a lot too.
We've been going quickly, or we need to go quicker, so I'm going to try to shorten mine because it's a little long, so I'm going to shorten it. All right, so I use the rule as we have decided was us resurrecting actor's career as the lead role. My director is Christopher Nolan. My Napoleon solo is Timothy Dalton. I'm resurrecting Timothy Dalton's career, who was super underrated as James Bond in his day. My Ilya is going to be played by Dania Kovlovsky, who was in Vikings. He was in Vampire Academy. He was in Hardcore Henry. He's known as the Russian Brad Pitt. He's huge in that country. My villain is played by Cillian Murphy, and his henchman is played by Tom Hardy, and the head of U.N.C.L.E. is played by Kenneth Branagh. I wanted to use people that Christopher Nolan likes and seems to use a lot of the same people. So this is my summary of the movie, and then I kind of have a summary and a pitch, and I don't know what makes more sense, so I'll read my summary. The villainous organization known as Thrush steals a device that is the key to reading minds that they believe to be able to upgrade, to be able to take control of people's minds. Having originally dealt with the device before and procuring it years ago, Napoleon Solo, played by Timothy Dalton, is called out of retirement to team up with the new super spy of U.N.C.L.E. Ilya, played by Dania Kovlovsky, to track down and recapture the device before it is used to take power over the top nation's political parties. And my pitch is the film opens with a high security facility being broken into by a group of masked men. You get a great little heist scene from Christopher Nolan that he's good at, that he's shown in like The Dark Knight and Tenet. And the men take out guards one by one in secret until they reach the vault. When they are breaking into the vault, a guard sees them and pulls an alarm. The masked men rush to grab the device that is in the vault and escape with a swarm of soldiers and guards chasing them down and firing at them. Two of the men split off with the device and unmask. The two men are played by Cillian Murphy and Tom Hardy. Holding the device, Murphy's character claims that this is the key to Thrush finally rising to power. The two agents must track down and stop Thrush and take back the device. In the end, Napoleon Solo sacrifices himself to blow up the device and take out the leaders of Thrush because he realizes that Ilya is the new leader of U.N.C.L.E. and he must do his what was asked of him when he originally signed up and to give his life to save the world. So that's my movie. I think Christopher Nolan, after seeing Tenet, which I was super disappointed by overall, but I think he had some great aspects, would make an amazing spy thriller. And I think the next step for Christopher Nolan's career, after showing that he fails at making, I think he's gotten worse and worse and worse at making his own original movies over the years. I think he needs to get back on track by making something that's based on a property that already exists. So I want him to take some elements from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. that so he has some pre-existing history on and can kind of put his own twist on. There's episodes of Man from U.N.C.L.E. that are very sci-fi, including the mind control device, and I wanted to take that element, and I think that works well with the strength of Christopher Nolan. So that's my movie.
All right, cool. Tristan, what's your pitch to get back on track?
Yep.
For my Man from
Lions
U.N.C.L.E.
on the board.
Yep.
The rule I had to use was the 1990s movie. So I cast mine as a 1990s movie, and I have mine coming out in 1993. I think that year
Terrible
is going to be...
year. Nothing good came out of 1993.
Look,
Except
some
Joe
good
and
people
I.
were born in that year.
Yeah.
Some of us.
Maybe Tristan too. I don't know.
And I used
Not me.
a director that we've
I'll
heard
keep out.
on the podcast before, a Johnny favorite here, Martin Campbell. I picked him. And
Hey,
great.
that's a Bobby favorite.
Bobby favorite too, you know.
How fucking dare you?
Too bad
Have
I'm the
you
one
ranked
picking
all
all
the James Bond movies? No.
All right,
I
let's
really
get
like
to it.
his James Bond movies. I think he's done the best ones. I've been making my way through the franchise. It's kind of random order, so I've been watching this stuff that random ones that look good, and I've seen a lot of his, and they're the best ones for sure so far. And I'll go through my cast and just my basic premise, and that's pretty much it. I have the premise is that it's this joint operation between the Uncle, which is like this British organization and like an American organization. So we have this like crossover of these British and American spies from the 1990s. My cast is Tom Cruise as this sort of laced up good guy spy. It's a little bit before he was in Mission Impossible, so it would be kind of a new role for him to be playing the spy role. I think it would be fun to get a bit ahead of Mission Impossible and give him the spy role before that. And he's working alongside with Michael Caine, older than him, but he's like this experienced British spy who's come into America to help them with this plot. The lead of the British agency that is working with them is Sean Connery. He's going to be sort of this background player, but has a lot of good scenes where he's kind of giving Michael Caine his orders. And the leader of the American side is Harrison Ford. He's obviously a lot younger at this point than we know of him now, but I think he's still a little bit older than Tom Cruise is and stuff like that. So he would be like the advisor to Tom Cruise, giving him his advice. And the main bad guy who's sort of planning this attack, he attacked Parliament at the beginning of the movie. That's why the British are involved, and now he's planning an attack on America. So now America's getting involved, and that bad guy is Steven Seagal. So I basically have this really fun 90s cast going on this spy thriller adventure. I didn't make it too complicated or serious. I gave them names that I thought was fun. I thought Sean Connery's name is Irvine Treble, and Steven Seagal's name is Xander Kraus. Those sound like good, like spy guy names, So you just have a plot where Steven Seagal is this sort of muscly bad guy. He's doing these small scale attacks, and now he's planning this big one, and these spies have to plan together and work together to take this guy down at the last second. And you have that 90s spy action thriller. I don't want to go too deeply into the plot because I think you can get the general idea of what it's going to be. So that's just my pitch. You get a good cast of 90s actors, and they're on this action adventure taking down Steven Seagal.
All right. And who is your director again?
Martin Campbell.
Oh, right. Yeah, we talked about
Yeah.
that. And then Johnny, who is your director?
It's Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, duh. All right.
Heard of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Joe was watching the draft.
Yeah,
I was listening to your pitches.
Me
Those
too.
were like the two parts I blanked on. I know both your movies. Bobby, any questions?
Not particularly. No, I just kind of want to hear him fight.
All right. Yeah, I'm leaning a particular direction, but I'm at a point where I can easily be swayed. So I'll put 5 minutes on the clock, and then I'll pick a winner after that.
I'll start real quick. First of all, Steven Seagal, most famous for being a Fox News enthusiast and bad person. Sean Connery.
It's 1993.
Connery, famous for saying even before 1993 that it's okay to hit a woman if she asks for it. Those are some problems with your cast.
All right.
No one cared about that in 1993.
Apparently,
I'll say that.
No, just to
I
say
guess
that
Bill Clinton
when it happened, yeah.
Yeah, that when it happened before that. Anyway, I think just going and looking at these movies, Tristan sounds like a failed 90s action movie, and yeah, Tom Cruise is in it, but I would say that he was probably at the lowest point of his career at that time. He was big in the 80s. He kind of had a lull in the 90s, and then he peaked like when he started doing the Mission Impossible movies later in his career. So I don't necessarily see that being a big lead in this. And then the other thing is, I just think like Christopher Nolan can make some really good movies, and I think he showed a lot of promise in Tenet, and I think I kind of perfected what he failed at in that movie, because I think you need to strip him away of being able to be like, oh yeah, he's one of those guys that can just do whatever he wants. And I think Christopher Nolan's one of the best directors in Hollywood, but my next choice for him as a director would be going to a project that previously exists. And I think The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is a great choice for that. Even in the 90s, Sean Connery was at a point where he didn't care about any of the movies he was making. So again, you just get him basically being like the Bruce Willis nowadays of being like, I don't really care what I'm doing. I'm just going to show up and make my paycheck. He kind of stopped caring after, I'd say, the 80s, maybe some early 90s stuff. But at the most point, like for most of the movies, if you look at his filmography, it's just like, I'll show up, I'll get my paycheck, whatever. Steven Seagal's never been interesting in a movie ever. I know people hold Under Siege to some acclaim, but Steven Seagal was just some fat dude that kind of hip tossed people. Good choice, Lions, the Penny Sewell. That's exactly who I fucking wanted them to take. Hell yeah. Anyway, yeah, Christopher Nolan, I have a more interesting cast. I have a more interesting director. I have a more interesting plot. And I think it's something that has to do with the original that would be.
Thank you, Lions.
Yes, exactly.
I have a really good spy thriller. I have a great 90s spy cast. I think you can criticize.
Spy thrillers in the 90s.
I mean, it was the era of like early, like peak Bond stuff was in the 90s, really.
Yeah, like the Avengers, you know.
Bond was at his height in the 90s. You can't start.
No, he wasn't. They made GoldenEye in the 90s, which was good. But then they made Tomorrow Never Dies, which was a step down, and then The World Is Not Enough, which almost killed the franchise, and then Die Another Day in the early 2000s killed the franchise. So spy movies were at their low point until, I would say, Mission Impossible kind of resurrected that, and then the second one almost killed it, and then it took Mission Impossible 3 and Casino Royale to really resurrect that.
And guess what you have in here? You have the director of Casino Royale, and you have the lead of Mission Impossible.
Casino Royale didn't exist.
I'm essentially setting
Mission
up.
Impossible didn't exist yet. So
yeah, these actors. Who cares, man? These actors. We've seen that they can do it, though. We've seen that these actors can do it
now, but not at that time.
GoldenEye was like 2 years after this. Martin Campbell can direct spy thrillers at 1993.
Yeah, but he hadn't even done GoldenEye yet. Like, you put this in 93. I think if you put your movie in 96, 97, even like 99, it makes more sense because your guys are more established at making those movies. But I
want this to be the movie that puts them on the map for that. Like, I want this to be the one, like you mentioned, the first Mission Impossible kind of like revived the spy genre. I want this to like retroactively be the one that revives the spy genre. You have all the pieces there. You have the great cast. You have the great director. And I think this is a spy movie that could have taken off the spy genre a few years earlier and maybe given us a couple more great ones out of it.
Yeah. I think if you look at the careers, I think I would make this argument that I don't think it's something that has ever been made when making like a movie in the past, but I think it holds water, and maybe the judges disagree with me, but I would argue that if Martin Campbell makes The Man from U.N.C.L.E, and let's say it's a big hit, there's not a chance in the world that he makes GoldenEye, because if you look at his career, he jumps around so much that he doesn't really make a lot of sequels. He doesn't, outside of Zorro, he's a guy that makes different movies. I think if he had a smash success in 93 with The Man from U.N.C.L.E, there's no chance in hell he actually makes GoldenEye, which I think retroactively you've harmed the Bond movies. You've also harmed Tom Cruise because maybe he doesn't take Mission Impossible because that's another guy that doesn't until like at that point.
I see where you're going with this, but it doesn't affect what I care.
It doesn't affect you, but I think it's a valid argument. I think if you change history, you change those guys out.
What we should do is have the jumpers go back in time and then just make sure that Martin Campbell directs.
We're limited on time. What I want to do, otherwise I'll just cut off the stream and say, well, who gives a fuck? But
it's 9:15. Make a decision.
All right, Bobby, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I think based on casting choice alone, I think I'm leaning Johnny. Based on the score, that's very unfortunate, but
I thought my cast was good.
Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal is bringing your choice down,
and didn't give a shit about movies.
So here's the thing. I love Martin Campbell. In the 90s, he made like the Zorro movies, and I think those would be fun. Like the problem is, I think you made a very forgettable movie nowadays. Like it wouldn't hold up, and I think Johnny made a movie that would be a lot more interesting to me and might be something that Nolan could nail. because I'd like to see him do a more straightforward movie instead of introducing some of his more time and kind of weird elements that he does that might mess up a movie like Tenet. So that's where I'm at. I think that Johnny's movie just stands out a lot more personally.
When you guys say cast as a 1990s movie, you really mean just make it a 2000s movie, but use
No,
90s actors?
but not really.
No,
it's more.
it means actually dissect the director's career and don't make it the first real movie that he directed. If you had said he just made GoldenEye, I'm going to argue that because he made a successful spy movie 2 years later in 97, he makes this movie, it would be a harder argument. But in 93, he was a TV director at that point. Like,
he's adapting a TV show to the big screen.
Yeah, which is not what a TV director does.
With a star that nowadays, the problem is, okay, Tristan, I think here's where you're falling into the trap. I think that Steven Seagal, none of his movies hold up as good movies.
But he's a 90s actor. And he doesn't, a 90s movie.
So is Jean-Claude Van Damme. But
and even in the 90s, he had a very particular audience that liked his movies. And I think you're pigeonholing yourself when you pitch a movie with Steven Seagal in it, no matter what he does in the 90s.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Move on to the last one. I want to
Masters of the Universe. I'll go first on this one.
All right, Masters of the Universe. It's He-Man and that's Skeletor and Dolph Lundgren. The movie sucks, man. Let's make it better. Make it fucking better.
I'll do my best, but I had to use Grammy Award winners, so it wasn't very easy to do.
Bobby, you an asshole! What are you doing?
Fuck you, Bobby.
I thought this would be fun.
Can we retroactively just give this loss to Bobby and not
Timberlake's He-Man movie?
No.
Yeah, I don't blame Tristan for a lot of this because it's Bobby's fault.
Like
it's
a lot
not
of
the rule choice to make to put Steven Seagal in that movie.
You put it in the 90s, and obviously Tristan only thinks he's a good 90s person. So
right.
Yeah, it is your fault.
And also, it's not my choice to bring back Hayden Christensen to resurrect Jumper. The lead. So
look, it's not my fault that you guys have bad taste. I pitch. Hey,
that's how I feel every time I pitch a dad movie, and you guys are like, "Fuck dad movies." That's my feeling every time.
We're not dads yet, Joe.
Right.
Look, I'm just gonna go through my cast. Really, I think that's the fun part of this. Is the fun people you cast in these roles, and I had to use Grammy Award winners, so I was very limited in what I could do. My He-Man, I cast Bradley Cooper. He won for A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
My King Grayskull, I cast Ben Kingsley. I don't remember what he won for. I didn't write the win things down, but he won for something. My Skeletor, I've got Joaquin Phoenix. I think he'd play a really fun villain. We talked about that earlier.
Ben Kingsley would have been a better Skeletor.
I have the evil character that works alongside Skeletor, played by Lady Gaga, and I have a good character that works alongside Bradley Cooper, played by Harry Styles. And I filled out the cast of a couple people that I would just have playing cool He-Man characters. So my premise is that essentially Adam He-Man, he's been kind of disgraced from the throne, and he has to go around the kingdom, to each of the individual parts of the kingdom, and he gets a hero from each kingdom to retake Castle Grayskull back from Skeletor. So I have people like Don Cheadle, Justin Timberlake, Donald Glover. I have them written down here as people who I think would fill in really good roles in this universe. So they're building up this team that he's going to go take down Grayskull with. So my premise, basically, like I said, Adam, aka He-Man, he must travel Eternia, gathering forces of good to reclaim his title as the Prince of Eternia, aka Master of the Universe, after Skeletor stages an unprecedented attack on the peaceful kingdom and takes King Grayskull captive in his own castle. So now we follow Adam's journey across the country as he's building up this sort of league of heroes who are then going to take the castle and rescue the king. And they have that sort of ticking clock adventure to it where the king's on his life's threatened. Obviously Skeletor is not being nice to him. He's not treating him well, and he's
being mean.
He's being a little mean, I love my cast. I think Joaquin Phoenix would play a great, crazy Skeletor. We talked about Joaquin as a villain role earlier in the episode. I think he would play a fun Skeletor role. And that's my pitch. I think Lady Gaga would be a fun to see her and Bradley Cooper in a movie together again, but on opposing sides. I think they had really good chemistry in A Star Is Born, so it would be fun to see them on opposing sides and only coming together towards the end. So that would be a fun subversion for that. And I think I use my cast pretty well. It's tough when you got to use Grammy Award winners, but that's my pitch for Masters of the Universe. Oh, my director is Simon McQuaid, who just did Mortal Kombat, which was awesome. And I think he could bring that kind of ridiculous fun
Ooh.
action to this.
I love Mortal Kombat, but okay, I have some things to say on that. All right. My Master of the Universe. I'm just going to read my pitch. The film opens with a group of kids playing on a playground. They see in the distance a group of people moving towards them. They stop and stare, and when the people get closer, they seem to be acting strange. They look like zombies, one of the kids shouts. As he does, the zombies start to charge. The kids run away into the woods and try to head back to the house. When they seem to be cornered, lightning hits the ground in between them. And I lost my spot. And the zombies. A man stands there with long, wild blonde hair, crouched on the ground. The man stands up and brandishes his sword. The zombies charge, and the man strikes them all down in a bloody rampage. The man turns to the group of kids and says, "They call me He-Man, Master of the Universe, and I'm here to protect you. My He-Man is played by none other than Nicolas Cage. He-Man travels to Earth to protect a group of children from a zombie army sent by Skeletor to kill Adam, the 13-year-old boy who will eventually find a magic sword and become the hero known as He-Man." And here's my director is David Gordon Green, who did Halloween, and he did a great little movie with Nicolas Cage called Joe. My He-Man is obviously Nicolas Cage. My Adam is played by Brady Noon, who was in Good Boys, and now he is the star of the Mighty Ducks show. My Frankie is played by Sonny Siljic, who was in mid-90s. Nikki, the girl character, is played by Maya Chek, who was in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And my Connor is played by Griffin McIntyre from Return of the Mac. So my movie is Nicolas Cage as He-Man, murdering the shit out of zombies for 2 hours, protecting a bunch of kids that are swearing and being funny and being worried about their future, but they think that they're safe because they have Nicolas Cage's He-Man on their side, slaughtering zombies with his fucking broadsword. And I'm so excited for my movie. I don't care if I win, but I would watch my movie in a fucking heartbeat. It'd be on Shudder. It would be incredible. If anyone's seen Wally's Wonderland, it's amazing. Nicolas Cage doesn't speak a fucking word of dialogue and just fights animatronic puppets. It's mind-blowingly amazing. And that's what my movie would be, except Nicolas Cage would talk, but he would be Nicolas Cage going all in as He-Man. And you have a bunch of funny kids. And the end of the movie would be He-Man sacrificing himself to teleport the zombies away, but leaving his sword for his younger self, who will eventually become He-Man, Master of the Universe. So that is my movie. Good fucking luck, Tristan.
Okay.
All right. I know Bobby's making the ultimate call here. I will just say, after Tristan gave his pitch, I'm like, I think we may have our first 6-1 victory maybe ever, at least in a long time. And then Johnny gave his pitch.
You know.
And then Johnny gave his
Now
pitch.
you know there'll be a 6-1
and now I'm like,
defeat.
oh, it could be a battle here. So
you guys haven't fucking seen Nicolas Cage work in the last like 6 years?
No, honestly, I have, but you've made basically a historically bad movie that might be fun.
You made the grave error of making him He-Man and not Skeletor.
This is what I did. He-Man sucks.
I agree with Tristan.
Anyone who likes He-Man is dumb. He-Man is stupid. He is a badly designed character. All of the characters in the show are awful. It's a show that, like, if you were to say, we're going to make this big budget He-Man movie, it would bomb immediately. He-Man's a very dumb character, but I think the only way to make him interesting to me would to make what Nick Cage is doing now is something that I don't know if we've ever seen anyone in Hollywood do. He is doing very, very interesting, fun films, whether it's Mandy, whether it's the movie where the parents become murderers and try to kill their kids, whether it's Wally's Wonderland. Nick Cage is doing things right now in Hollywood that no one's ever done before that are amazing. And I want He-Man to be closer to that than to be anything closer than the shitty, awful source material that if you think is good at all, you're an idiot.
Johnny, question: how is Nicolas Cage dressed as He-Man?
Okay, so he's not in a loincloth, right?
Why not?
Dang, you could have gotten the win.
He's wearing leather pants, shirtless, with just the He-Man thing over himself. He's got his beer gut, but he has this big ass sword, and it's not a wig, it's his natural hair grown out. So he is balding, but then it's really long and it's blonde.
Tristan, let me hear more about your movie.
I don't know what to do with this movie. Yeah.
Tristan,
I'll go out a little
How
bit.
do you fight this? It's incredible!
I didn't
Oh
mention
my
the names of the
God.
characters, but I did like base all these characters off of like characters from the source material. Because believe it or not, the source material has a lot of fun stuff
It's
to draw
god
from.
awful shit. Oh, whoa, this guy in a fucking thong wears he has a sword and he fights a skeleton. That's cool. No, He-Man is stupid. But the only way to make He-Man
All right, I want to actually hear what Tristan.
I'm gonna say what I
we
have
get-
to say. Okay,
We
Don't
get
Lady
Johnny's
Gaga's
movie.
character, I had her playing Evelyn.
Cool lady.
Harry
Cool
Styles, I had him
action
playing
actress.
Zodak, which was really cool.
Gotta stand Harry Styles.
Don
Love him.
Cheadle, I have him playing Man at Arms. I think that would be a fun one to see him play. Justin Timberlake, he's playing Snout Spout. Cool one for him. Donald Glover, he's voicing Gwildor. He's like a little imp character guy that would be fighting alongside him. So I wanted to get like a variety of people. One that's like a cosmic kind of fighter. One that's a little creatures. And then I cast Lady Gaga as Evelyn because I think that's not an action-oriented role. I think it would fit for her strength as an actress. And like I said, it's sort of Adam like coming to his own role a bit. Like he's older. He's played by Bradley Cooper, and I want him to be like he's sort of learned to as a prince that he's stepped down a bit from his role as a prince. He's not really being what he should be doing as a protector of the universe. So he's gathering up a team and sort of having to reclaim his title as a master of the universe. Like it's a journey of him, similar to like Thor's arc has been throughout the MCU of like he's very cocky and arrogant towards the beginning, and then as he's doing more and growing as a person and growing as a team, he's sort of seeing his place in the universe, seeing his place as a leader, as a prince, and ultimately by the end, finding that role and finding that power and like reclaiming that title as master of the universe. I want it to be a bit of an origin story, but not really. Like he's been the master of the universe for a while, but you're getting him kind of reclaiming that title and taking it back to people who aren't familiar with the source material, who think it's just a bunch of kid garbage. You know, maybe they can watch it and be like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is a lot of fun. This is similar to Power Rangers and stuff like that, where it's just like fun 90s nostalgia type stuff. So that's what I went for with Masters of the Universe on mine.
All right. Bobby, you have the ultimate call. We're 2.5 hours in. Do you know where you're going to go?
Yeah, it's
You
Tristan.
gotta go with mine. Mine. Okay, here's my thing.
All right, Johnny, hold
Master
on.
of the Universe is stupid.
It is
He-Man's
9:30.
stupid. Don't care. Do not care. Master of the Universe, bad. He-Man, dumb.
Yes,
I
I
made
agree.
mine cool.
All right, go ahead, Bobby.
All right, thank you. Even though Tristan,
I
with
can
my
unmute
rules-
myself.
Johnny, stop. Even though with even though I really wanted to hear like a musical He-Man movie because I don't think He-Man would make a great
I so badly
legitimate
wanted
movie.
to do that.
I
didn't
would
know
have.
who was
That's what
judging.
that's what I wanted you to do when I made that pick because I think that He-Man has really stupid lore, like Johnny said. But honestly, Johnny just made a bad movie. So
Yeah, pretty
Tristan,
much won
Tristan
by
wins.
default.
Yeah, Tristan wins.
All right, I'm good with that.
I will say I would have watched the shit out of Johnny's movie like 100 times.
Yeah, what the fuck, guys? What the? My judges are morons. If Tristan was the judge, I would have won because
Johnny,
he's
you won
smart.
5-2.
Yeah, and that's not enough. I should have swept him.
5-2.
fucking
You
morons,
won.
you
We
fucking
went with
idiot.
Tristan on that one.
Oh,
All
even
right,
though
Give me the one,
Bad
okay?
movie.
God, I
Lady
want
Gaga-
1 point.
Johnny,
Lady
you
Gaga
get it.
is the villain.
Johnny, you
Yeah,
should know that
cool.
every single round, everyone wants to vote
Bobby, I don't give
against
a
you.
fuck. You've never seen Mandy. That's fine.
Johnny,
go fuck yourself.
No, listen to me. Every single round, everyone wants to go against you. So when you win 5-2, that is definitely a. All right, Johnny's
Okay.
gone.
I kicked him out.
Yeah, but you get the point. We don't want you to win, but you're good.
One day he's gonna lose though. I can feel it. I wasn't
Yeah,
the
when
one
I
to bring
face
him
him
down.
next for the championship.
Yeah.
I mean, look, okay, I've been fighting with Joe. I've been the heel here, but I do think that it's time for all three of us to come together because we need to bring Johnny down. No matter what happens, Johnny needs to lose.
Here's
It
my
has
thing.
to be legitimate, though.
It has to be
But
legit,
it has
of course.
to be
We're not
legit,
gonna
and
cheat.
it will never be because I'm so much better than all of you at this. It's not even fucking close. Even in my bad pitches, it's so clear who made the better one. It's wild how
You
bad,
just
how much
talk
better.
so
Hey,
I am.
let's
Yeah,
close this
talk
out.
shit. Fuck you. I'm making my heel turn, Bobby. Go fuck yourself.
Wait,
I was a face
Johnny,
turning
until
even
this.
more heel now.
I am the goddamn champion of this league. I
Johnny,
will never lose again.
Johnny
you made
needs
your
to go
heel
down.
turn in
Okay?
episode 0.
I can't let Johnny destroy Bobby. Bobby's an innocent bystander here. He gave me rules that, even though I might have chose a couple of different ones for some of them, I respect the rules. Bobby's a hero of this show. Johnny cannot be this violent and this angry. Johnny's gone unhinged. The power's gone to his head. He's too sick with a victory. He needs to be taken down. And I'm putting the game aside now. This is serious. Johnny's going down. All right, we're taking him down.
And that needs to happen. So you need to let me beat Tristan the next time I face him, so I then can go and defeat Johnny. But so
let's
Joe, and then I beat Bobby.
Let's close this out. I think we got the point.
So
Johnny
gave
going
his
mad
final
in the
thoughts.
chat.
Johnny gave his final thoughts. Tristan, what are your final thoughts? I know you lost 5-2, but what's your strategy?
It's so
next
hard
time?
coming in here because I think you guys should give me some insight into what you didn't like, which is always helpful because I was unconfident on some of these choices. I was pretty confident on others. So it's good to get a look into your guys' thought. I want to do better every time I come back and fight Johnny. You know, I won 1 point last time we played, I think. And then I won 2 points now. So I think I got 3 points next time. And then let's boom up from there. Either that or I'm going to knock him out next time I play. But yeah, I think Johnny obviously comes in with heat, you know, and I think even on his weaker pitches, he comes in with heat and really stands for these weaker pitches. I think he had some pretty strong ones, though. I liked his Sorcerer's Apprentice pitch. I thought that was a pretty good use of the rule on that. And I also liked his Wrinkle in Time pitch a lot. Of course, I would have watched his Master of the Universe movie over and over and over again. I would sign up for Shudder just to watch that, but I'm glad I won that one at least. It was a good episode. I'm looking forward to some more. Hopefully someone will bring down Johnny eventually.
Yeah, I would say, like, as far as your stories go, your stories are fun. Like, your stories, you know, your plots are always fine. It's just, you know, your director or casting choices is kind of what got away from you there. Bobby, any final thoughts?
No, that similar for me. I mean, like, obviously, because Johnny wins all the time, I'm always looking for a reason to make him lose. But I think it came down to, like Joe said, the directing and casting choices. I think your plots were great. I think it was a fun episode, honestly, even with the kind of blowout score. I think it was fun listening to every pitch that you guys made. And I really hope that Johnny is going crazy right now, but I really hope that someone can take him down eventually. And I do think this was a fun episode, you know, with a pitch. Oh my God. I can't keep a straight face with that, but fun episode. I want someone to take Johnny down, but he is very good.
And I'll say that. My final thoughts, it was a fun episode. I'm very happy as a Lions fan. We improved in the offensive line, and word on the street is Aaron Rodgers is headed to Denver. So,
where is that?
Apparently, he's wanted out of Green Bay for a while, and apparently...
Well, no, I know that. The Denver specifically.
Saw that on Reddit.
All right. Oh, well, never mind.
Well, it was...
That's not legit. All right.
In Colorado?
Aaron Schefter tweeted it out that he wants.
Aaron Schefter? I don't know who that is.
What? Fuck it, Schefter. I fucking.
Yeah, he's like my guy, John.
I need to get final thoughts, you assholes. First of all, Denver's
Adam Schefter. There we go.
Second of all,
Adam Schefter.
Okay.
Wait, did you say that to me?
Yeah, Bobby said, "Where's Denver?"
I didn't say that.
All right, that's enough of that episode. Goodbye, everybody. See ya.